Chapter 1002. The reporters were like a swarm of bees. If they were not held back by the organizer's security guards, they would have probably pounced on Yun Jian and interrogated her with all sorts of questions. It was fortunate that an international racing competition like this had people from the organizer's side, keeping these terrifying reporters in check. After all, these reporters were quite fearsome in order to get first-hand headlines. In the past, any racer who was slightly famous in the international racing competition would be swarmed by these fearsome reporters. Therefore, to control the reporters as much as possible, the organizer had sent security guards to stop them. In spite of it, there were just too many reporters. Even with the security guards deployed, they could not stop all of them. The venue was in a state of chaos, but to Yun Jian, it was as if nothing had happened. She merely squinted her eyes. Hello. Can you please answer my question? Will you reappear in the racing circle as SS? Excuse me. If the people who were yelling for Yun Jian to get out of the racing circle at the spectator stands were intense in their tone, these reporters were 100 times more frenzied than them. Sister Jian, let's leave from the back door of the racetrack. A luring demon went up to Yun Jian and told Yun Jian softly with a nod. Amen. Yun Jian nodded and answered alluring demon. SS, are you leaving? You'll return to the racing circle, right? You. The reporters panicked when they saw Yun Jian turn around without saying a word. Yun Jian ignored them and turned slightly to the side. After a pause, she turned around again to show the reporters her back. The corners of her beautiful lips curled up slightly, and a bright light flashed through her eyes. In the next second, her melodious voice rang out. I'll only answer one question. Yun Jian paused for a beat before her voice trailed off. What does it have to do with you whether I race or not? Are you my parents or my parents? Why are you so nosy? Yun Jian's words were not polite at all. The reporters at the scene originally thought that Yun Jian could really answer a decent question. But Yun Jian's words meant, wasn't she indirectly saying that the reporters were meddling in other people's business? Although Yun Jian's words didn't sound elegant at all, the racers in the distance almost couldn't help clapping and cheering when they heard her. This group of racers was usually afraid of being chased by reporters, but standing in a group of reporters, although they were very disgusted by the reporters' questions, they couldn't fly into a rage. However, Yun Jian's actions had completely vented everyone's anger. Seeing Yun Jian turn around and walk away after saying this, the group of reporters froze in place, and surprisingly did not chase after her. The reporters who were standing still saw the look in Yun Jian's eyes, and were a little shocked at the moment. That young girl's eyes could be so cold. It was as if they dared to chase after her, they would immediately die on the spot. After receiving Yun Jian's cold glare, the reporters all stood still in a daze and didn't chase after her. The people in the spectator stands were stunned. Everyone was dumbfounded. One had to know that when a racer finished a race, this group of reporters would chase after the racer like crazy in order to get first-hand news. Chapter 1003. While the reporters were dumbfounded and too scared to follow them, Yun Jian was already led away by Temptress through the back door of the racetrack. Haha, those damn reporters kept pestering you, Sister Jian. They're usually pestering me, but Sister Jian, your gaze just now must have scared them to death. Just as Temptress led Yun Jian out of the racetrack's back door and came to a flat area illuminated only by a single light, she guffawed loudly. This did not match Temptress's seductive image at all. Temptress was seductive, but her seductive image was only shown to outsiders. She was never strict with Yun Jian. Yun Jian gave a curt nod, but it was obvious from the slight curvature that she was replying to Temptress. Yun Jian had always been one to speak her mind. Honestly, it was a headache for her to face the reporters. It was fine if she did not say anything, but once she did, the reporters would back off. Sis. Just as Yun Jian and Temptress arrived at the racetrack's entrance, a male voice rang out. They were at the racetrack's entrance, and the loud cheers from the spectator stands could be heard from here. It could be seen that another exciting racing performance was about to begin. It was not as intense as Yun Jian and Temptress race, but the atmosphere on the spectator stands was already boiling. In comparison, the racetrack's entrance seemed a little lonely. There was only one spot of light that shone down, making it feel a little desolate. In spite of it, Yunjian did not find it desolate. She tilted her head slightly toward the source of the voice, and saw Guxian waving toward them. There were a few buddies from Guxian with him as well. Dan Tianxing was the leader. It was almost Dan Tianxing's race, but he seemed to be more excited to see Yunjian than the race. When Yunjian heard Guxian's voice, she stopped in her tracks. When Temptress saw Yunjian stop, she stopped as well. Phew! Yunjian! You! Dan Tianxing was still panting when he ran over. He took a deep breath to adjust his emotions. Yunjian, are you really SS? Dan Tianxing finally asked the question that Guxian and the rest wanted to ask. Just as he asked the question, however, Dan Tianxing paused and said, "No, I don't mean anything else. It's because I admire Temptress and SS very much so." "I am," Yunjian answered naturally. Yunjian did not answer whether she was SS or not when she was interviewed. Dan Tianxing and the others chased after her was to ask for an answer. Yes or no? Although Dan Tianxing and the rest were prepared, they were still stunned at this moment. Guxian put his arm around Dan Tianxing's shoulder naturally and said in a boastful manner, "Of course, I finally know why Master Corentin calls Sister S. And why Master Corentin wants Sister to be his disciple." "What? Master Corentin? Little Xian, are you talking about the world's most famous top-notch mechanic, Master Corentin? Master Corentin wants to be Yunjian's disciple?" This. Chapter 1004. Corentin was also well known in the racing circle. What was that supposed to mean? Corentin did not race, but why was he so famous in the racing circle? It was because Corentin's modified racing car was the best in the world. Any racer would have a grand goal or wish, which was to get a sports car modified by Master Corentin. Therefore, Corentin was famous in the racing circle. Moreover, Corentin had a quirk that everyone in the industry knew. It was impossible to get a sports car modified by Master Corentin, even if you had the money. It also depended on his mood. If he was in a bad mood or did not like you, he would not modify you even if it cost him his life. This was mentioned before. Of course, the reason Corentin could be so arrogant was because he had his own skills. He had the capital to be so arrogant and brash. Therefore, when they heard that someone like him was begging to be Yunjian's disciple, Shan Tianxing and the rest were shocked and fearful. Huh, that old man Corentin is still begging to be Sister Jin's disciple? To Shan Tianxing and the rest, Corentin's begging to be Yunjian's disciple was terrifying, but Alluring Demon was only impressed by his perseverance. As for Corentin wanting to be Yunjian's disciple, it was just a normal thing. Sister Jian, that old man still hasn't given up. Are you going to take him in? Alluring Demon crossed her arms lazily and looked at Yunjian with a grin, her eyes twinkling with a peculiar glint. No, Yunjian retorted. Shan Tianxing and the rest shuddered again when they heard Yunjian's straightforward rejection. That was the internationally renowned mechanic Master Corentin. If it were any of Dan Tianxing's men, they would be very satisfied if Master Corentin were to meet them, let alone acknowledge them as his master. What about Yunjian? Why? Yunjian, why didn't you take Master Corentin in? If Yunjian took Master Corentin as her disciple, would it not be a piece of cake for him to modify a sports car? Dan Tianxing asked in confusion. Because Yunjian tilted her head and looked at Dan Tianxing. She narrowed her eyes slightly, and there was a beautiful luster in her eyes that no one could underestimate. Because he's not qualified. In the next second, Yunjian's soft voice rang out. When this voice rang out, Dan Tianxing and the others were completely stunned. What did he mean by Master Corentin wasn't qualified? If even Master Corentin wasn't qualified, then who else in the world was? However, after Yunjian finished speaking, she smiled faintly, turned sideways and took a step forward. Little Xian, your sister is an SS, the king of the racing circle. That's true, but Master Corentin's strength isn't just for show. For her to speak of Master Corentin like that, isn't it a little? Dan Tianxing said hesitantly. Little brother, You're really flattering that old man Corentin. He's nothing to Sister Jian. Temptress winked at Dan Tiansheng and the others before she followed Yun Jian with a chuckle. What Temptress said surprised Dan Tiansheng and the others. That was not the end of it. When Guxian heard that, he could not help stepping up to tell his buddy Dan Tiansheng. Tiansheng, I used to think that Master Corentin was the best mechanic in the world. But ever since I drove the Ferrari sports car my sister modified, the Ferrari sports car my sister modified is twice as fast as Master Corentin's modified sports car. Master Corentin's modified sports car was originally twice as fast as a regular sports car. That was already the limit. However, a mechanic who could double the speed of Master Corentin's modified sports car. There was probably no one else in the world who could do that. Chapter 1005. While Dan Tiansheng and the others were still in shock, Guxian had already caught up with Yun Jian and told her that he had to return to the venue to watch Dan Tiansheng's race. He asked Yun Jian if she wanted to go back with him. Yun Jian had just caused such a big commotion. Of course, it was not suitable for her to go back now. Thus, Yun Jian curved her red lips and smiled faintly. I won't go. Give me a call after you finish watching the race tonight. With that, Yun Jian patted her trouser pocket gently and smiled. She placed her phone in her trouser pocket. Okay. Guxian nodded. Dan Tiansheng's race was not over yet. As a brother, he had to be there. Otherwise he would be too unbrotherly. After Yun Jian finished talking to Guxian, she left with Demonis. Yun Jian came to Maryland and Country M to check on the Rongyao Company's recent situation. Coincidentally, Guxian could not leave tonight, so Yun Jian went to Rongyao Company with Demonis. Rongyao Company was located in the largest downtown area in Maryland. It occupied a vast area and was the tallest high-rise building in Maryland. It was already nighttime and almost dawn. However, the downtown area in Maryland was the busiest area in the vicinity. Even now it was still crowded. There were still people working overtime in Rongyao Company. When Demonis followed Yun Jian into the Rongyao Company, the employees who were working overtime looked at Yun Jian with surprise and suspicion. The Demonis was the CEO of the Rong and Yao Company. This was something that everyone in the company knew. But what was going on now? How could the CEO of their company single-handedly support Rongyao Company, from an unknown company to the current CEO of one of the top 10 international corporations in the world? And she was actually following behind a young girl who looked less than 18 years old? What was going on? However, before the people present could think too much, the siren followed Yun Jian and walked past the group of workers who were still working overtime. Good evening, CEO. When the Demonis passed by them, the group of employees greeted her politely. However, when they saw Yun Jian, they all opened their mouths but didn't know how to address her. It wasn't until Yun Jian and the Demonis were far away that the group of staff members began to chatter endlessly. Who is that girl? Why does it seem like our company's CEO is following behind her? It's probably a coincidence. Who do you think our CEO is? The CEO probably just happened to be following that young girl. The few female staff members who were standing at the same spot were very jealous of Yun Jian for being able to make the Demonis follow behind her. It was as if she was ordering her own subordinates. People's jealousy was very scary, so these female staff members began to gossip again. Just as they reached this part of their conversation, they were either hinting or comforting themselves that it was just a coincidence that Demonis was following Yun Jian. However, they heard Demonis speaking to Yun Jian from afar. Sister Jian, the company's going downhill right now because of Hagi Company's suppression. The rest of the words did not register in the female staff members who stood at the same spot. However, the few female staff members present heard the two words. Sister Jian, the CEO of Rongyao Company was calling the girl sister? What did this mean? Did it mean that the girl's status was higher than Demonis? Chapter 1006. Suddenly thinking of this, several female staff members suddenly covered their mouths and looked at Yun Jian's fading figure in disbelief. Oh my God, could she be the legendary founder of the Rongyao Company, the chairman of the Rongyao Company? Since the establishment of the Rongyao Company, the chairman of the Rongyao company, had never shown his face. So when they heard Demonis call Yun Jian's sister, the group of female staff members guessed it. The expression of the people present could not be described with the word frightened. They seemed to have seen the founder of the Rongyao company, the legendary chairman. For a moment, the group of female staff members even forgot that they were secretly criticizing Yun Jian and despising Yun Jian in their hearts. At this moment, Yun Jian and Demonis had already taken the elevator to the office on the 25th floor. The 25th floor was where the offices of all the executives of the Rongyao company were located. Demonis' office was also on the 25th floor. As soon as they came out of the elevator, Demonis took Yun Jian directly to her office. After hearing Demonis say that the company's development was going downhill recently, Yun Jian was neither happy nor worried. She asked faintly, "Hagi Company?" Yes, Hagi Company is also one of the top 10 international companies. But Hagi Company's international status is slightly higher than our Rongyao company. The reason is because Hagi Company is a company passed down from ancient times. After thousands of years of business development, its foundation is deeply rooted. Recently, the chairman of Hagi Company has been suppressing us, so the company's sales have been greatly reduced recently. Demonis was not vague at all when talking about serious matters. She explained to Yun Jian word by word. However, just as she said this, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. Because at this moment, Yun Jian and Demonis had already arrived at the door of Demonis' office. Yun Jian, on the other hand, saw two figures in a luring demon's office. When Demonis saw the two figures, one standing and one sitting in her office, she frowned deeply. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows slightly. Under normal circumstances, Rongyao company had guards at the door, so outsiders could not enter. However, it was almost midnight now, and basically everyone in the company had gotten off work, except for some people who were still working overtime. Therefore, there were no guards outside the door, and there were still people in the company. The door was open, so it was not strange that someone could enter. However, the strange thing was that this person actually found Demonis' office. "Mayor." Demonis frowned and said in astonishment. Once Yun Jian heard a luring witch's shout, she knew who the two people in the office, one standing and one sitting, were. The man standing was Mayor, the chairman of Hagi Company. The woman sitting on the sofa with her legs crossed was Mel's sister Maggie. Hagi Company was the company that had been suppressing Rongyao Company recently. At least now that Rongyao Company was in Demonis' hands, she could not compete with Hagi Company. "Haha, my little Demonis, I finally caught you." Mayor glanced at Yun Jian, then turned to look at Demonis, and said generously, "What are you doing here? Aren't you afraid that I will kill you?" Demonis glared at Mayor fiercely. In fact, based on the current situation, Demonis, as the chairman of Rongyao Company, was being suppressed by Hagi Company. Mayor was Demonis' strongest opponent. Puffed. However, Mayor was amused and laughed. His handsome face added a trace of the CEO's dignified demeanor. "Of course we are here to laugh at you." Mayanai raised her head arrogantly and looked at Demonis. Mayanai glanced at Demonis, then glanced at Yun Jian. Seeing that Yun Jian was wearing clothes from a street stall, she laughed for a while then mocked her. Chapter 1007. Yun Jian did not plan to speak, but she merely raised a brow when the topic shifted to her. Hagi Company was one of the top 10 international corporations, and its international status was incomparable to ordinary companies. In fact, Hagi Company and Rongyao Company existed side by side. The only difference was that Rongyao Company had only risen in recent years. Hagi Company, on the other hand, was an industry that had been passed down for generations. In comparison, Hagi Company's international status was perhaps a few levels higher than Rongyao Company's. Hagi Company was considered a strong competitor to Rongyao Company. As for Mayor and Mayanai, they were siblings, and Mayor was the CEO of Hagi Company, holding 20% of the company's shares. He could be considered one of the biggest shareholders of the company. Yun Jian had planned to see why Mayor and Mayanai were here, but she did not expect Mayanai to target her. She narrowed her eyes and stared straight ahead. Mayanai had thought of teasing Yun Jian when she saw her standing quietly on the side, especially since Hagi Company and Rongyao Company's CEO, Temptress, were arch-enemies. Looking at Yunjian's attire, Mai and I had thought of mocking her, which was why she had mocked Yunjian so viciously. Just as she finished mocking Yunjian, Mai's gaze was fixed on Temptress. To Mai and I, Yunjian was probably just an insignificant employee in the company, perhaps a poor beggar who came out of nowhere. Mai's purpose of belittling Yunjian was to suppress Temptress in terms of aura. It was not that she had seen Yunjian. In Mai's eyes, Yunjian was just a stepping stone for her to suppress Temptress. Before Yunjian could get angry, Temptress was already fuming when she heard what Mai and I said. How dare she call Sister Jian a poor beggar? If Sister Jian was poor, would there be any rich people in the world? You're not welcome here. Get lost. Scram as far as you can. Although the demoness usually looked seductive, she was very strong when she was fierce. At this moment, the demoness was walking toward Mare, and Mai and I in a pair of pointy stilettos. She picked up a mop and was about to chase them away. She looked like a shrew. "Io, my little demoness, don't be like this. Nier is still young and doesn't know any better. If she said something she shouldn't have, don't lower yourself to her level." Mare turned to the side and grabbed the mop that Siren swung at him. "Brother, how dare she enter Rongyao Company with that outfit? Humph. Even if Rongyao Company is not as good as our Haji, Rongyao Company is still one of the top 10 multinational companies in the world. Even such a person can come in. The threshold of your Rongyao Company is too low." Pfft. Mai and I placed her hand softly on her cheek. Even her brother Mare was ashamed to hear her scornful look. Temptress was even more furious when she heard that. She yanked the mop back from Mare's hand and was about to fling it at Mai and I. It was then that Yunjian's voice rang. "What does it have to do with you whether the threshold of our Rongyao Company is high or not? I think a beggar on the street is better than a certain woman who sprays Dior cologne all over." A woman who sprays Dior cologne all over? Mai and I froze. Was she not referring to herself? Chapter 1008. Mare and Mai and I didn't even notice the words Rongyao Company. Yunjian wasn't complaining about the Dior perfume. She was cursing Mai and I in a roundabout way, saying that she was worse than a beggar on the street. In fact, most women knew how to spray perfume. For example, seductive women also sprayed perfume. There were many types of perfume. Some people liked simple and elegant scents. Seductive woman, for example, sprayed a simple and elegant perfume, even though she was seductive. As for Mai and I, she sprayed a very strong perfume. Of course, everyone had their own preferences. Yunjian wasn't complaining about Mai's Dior perfume. It was just that Mai and I had coincidentally sprayed Dior perfume. At the same time, everyone present could tell that Yunjian was implying that Mai and I was worse than a beggar on the street. This was purely a scolding without any vulgarities. Moreover, Yunjian emphasized the woman who sprayed Dior perfume. There were only 4 people present. Yunjian and Mare didn't spray perfume. Seductive woman sprayed a faint perfume. Yunjian could tell that it wasn't a Dior perfume with one sniff. Then there was only one person present who fit the description. That person was Mai and I. Therefore, Mai's face instantly darkened after Yunjian said that. Mai and I had been spoiled since she was young. She had always treated Yunjian as a beggar. Now that she heard Yunjian say that she was worse than a beggar, she exploded on the spot. "What did you say? You actually said that I'm worse than a beggar. Ah. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you." Mai and I flew into a rage on the spot. She picked up a teacup from the coffee table and threw it at Yunjian. Mai and I was a typical rich young lady. She was the young lady of one of the top 10 international corporations, Hagi Company. Therefore, she had a very delicate personality. Usually, no one would even say anything bad about her. There were only a bunch of people who flattered her. Therefore, when Mai and I heard Yunjian belittle her to be worse than a beggar, she felt as if she had been greatly insulted. Especially when Mai and I thought that Yunjian was a lowly person. The feeling of being despised by a lowly person made Mai and I explode instantly. "Go to hell." Mai and I grabbed a teacup and threw it at Yunjian. Not even Mare was able to react to this sudden turn of events. However, when Mare turned to the side to stop his sister, My niece's teacup had already been thrown viciously at Yun Jian. Inside the teacup, there was also a bowl of cool tea water. And I said, Mare's expression suddenly changed, but it was too late for him to stop her. The teacup that was filled with cooling tea leaves had already spun in the air, and was about to splash on Yun Jian, when the cold tea leaves splashed onto her. Alluring Demon's gaze dimmed, but she did not do anything else because she knew Sister Jian's ability. In spite of it, Mare's heart clenched when he saw the scene. He could feel that Alluring Demon cared a lot about Yun Jian, and he did not come here to go against Alluring Demon. Instead, if the tea had splashed on Yun Jian, and the teacup had smashed on her as well, she would not have been able to escape. Would it not be the end of him and Alluring Demon then? Just as he thought about it, Mare saw a horrifying scene. Mai, who stood beside Mare, saw it as well. With a bang, Yun Jian suddenly took a step forward and spun the teacup in the air for a few seconds. Before the water in the teacup could pour completely, she suddenly raised her leg and kicked the teacup back at Mai. Before the water in the teacup could pour, Yun Jian's kick was forceful, but it was just right. Both Mare and Mai were dumbfounded. However, just as the two of them were stunned, Mai suddenly felt a wave of ice-cold tea soak her body, and a large teacup was smashed towards her forehead. Chapter 1009. Initially, the teacup was headed straight for Yun Jian, but Yun Jian's high kick just now had landed on the teacup. She kicked it back at Mai without spilling the tea. Not only was Mai soaked and sticky from the cold tea in the teacup when she was hit by the teacup, but more importantly, her forehead swelled up from the impact. For a rich young lady like Mai, she had never experienced such excruciating pain since she was young. Tears were about to flow from the impact, and at the same time, a deep hatred for Yun Jian welled up within her. The urge to kill Yun Jian on the spot took root in Mai. Go to hell. Mai held her forehead that was hit by the teacup and screamed at Yun Jian. Halfway through her sentence, Mai endured the pain and told Mare in a tone that sounded like she wanted to tear Yun Jian into pieces. Gidge, how dare this damn woman hit me? Kill her. I want her dead. In spite of it, Yun Jian, who had retracted her leg, crossed her arms and looked at Mai in disdain before snickering softly. Which, since when can a rabid dog like this enter my Rongyao company? Chase her out. Her words were directed at Alluring Witch, but her gaze was blatantly on Mai. At this moment, Mai was like an unreasonable little beggar. She looked pathetic and comical. Sister Jian, I'll chase these two rabid dogs out right away. Alluring Witch grinned and walked to Mare with ease. Seeing Mare supporting Mai in such a sorry state, the demonic woman sneered and provoked Mare. Don't worry. What are you waiting for? Take your sister and get out of my territory. Mare's heart skipped a beat when he saw Witch's impatient face, but he tried to explain his sister's behavior just now. Witch, don't be mad. My sister was just... Gidge. Who are you helping? It hurts so much. I'm going to die from the pain. Mai screamed and wailed. Yun Jian frowned when she saw Mai still screaming. She could not stand it anymore. So she went up and dragged Mai out of the office by her collar. I'll help you if you don't leave. Yun Jian did not care that Mai was still struggling as she dragged her all the way from the 25th floor to the first floor. Yun Jian's action frightened Mare and Mai, but Mare was held back by Witch, so he could only watch his sister being dragged to the first floor by Yun Jian. Mare was afraid of hurting Witch, who was blocking his way, so he dared not do anything. There were plenty of employees working overtime on the first floor, especially the female employees, who had gossiped about Yun Jian just now. When they saw Yun Jian dragging something out of the elevator, while holding someone's collar, they were spooked. Although the female employees suspected that Yun Jian was the director of Rongyao Company, they did not have sufficient evidence. Moreover, how old was Yun Jian? Therefore, this suspicion was quickly ruled out by the crowd. When they saw Yun Jian dragging Mai out of the elevator and tossing her out of the door, the employees were dumbfounded. How could this young lady be so fierce? And who was the person she was dragging? It was Mai, the daughter of Hagi Company's director. How dare she? Chapter 1010. When the staff came back to their senses, they heard Yun Jian's cold voice. Everyone at the scene was scared silly. That was the daughter of the chairman of Hagi Company. Even if she was the CEO of the Rong and Yao Company, she would have to think twice. After all, as the daughter of the chairman of Hagi Company, Mayanai was undoubtedly a dragon among men. It could be said that offending Mayanai was going against the whole Hagi Company. On the other hand, Rong and Yao Company was only on par with Hagi Company. In terms of international status, Rong and Yao Company was even worse than Hagi Company. So when they saw Yun Jian treating Mayanai like this, the staff who were working overtime in the company were stunned. Mayanai was still in pain from being hit by the teacup just now. She endured the pain and looked up when she heard Yun Jian's cold words. She was just about to look up at Yun Jian angrily and say, "Do you dare?" when she met Yun Jian's sharp, murderous gaze. Mayanai trembled. The severe pain made her not dare to look at Yun Jian directly. "Little siren, let's talk nicely. Don't be like this. It's easy to hurt our friendship." Mare didn't know what to do. He couldn't bear to touch Siren, but he also couldn't bear to see his sister being bullied by Yun Jian. In the business world, Mare did use Hagi Company's name to suppress Rongyao Company, but Mare had to admit that he had his own selfish motives. When he first saw Siren, he fell in love with her. So not long ago, he started to pursue her crazily, but Siren didn't care about him at all. Mare admitted that he fell in love with Siren at first sight. Seeing that the soft approach didn't work, he decided to use the hard approach. In the company, Mare used his position as the president of Hagi Company to suppress Siren. Of course, he didn't go too far. He didn't dare to be ruthless. He didn't want to drive his wife away and never talk to him again. But even so, Siren ignored Mare's love. So recently, Mare was most troubled by this matter. "Get lost." Siren glared back at Mare. But to Mare, this stare was exceptionally refreshing and alluring. Mare even thought the stare was cute. "Little witch, I'm sincere to you." Before Mare could finish his confession, my niece's scolding voice rang out. "Brother, you're crazy. You actually like her. Her people bullied me like this. Are you going to avenge me or not?" Mayanai said. Her fear of Yun Jian disappeared. She glared fiercely at Yun Jian and spat out even more insolent words. "Just you wait, damned woman. Who do you think you are? Do you think you're the chairman of Rongyao Company? Just you wait, I'll get my dad to kill you." Mayanai and Mare's father was the chairman of the Hagi Company. However, as soon as Mayanai said that, she heard a female voice behind her. "CEO, so you're here." This CEO was undoubtedly a shout to the demoness. Yun Jian turned slightly to look at the girl, who looked to be around 16 or 17 years old, who had suddenly appeared. The girl was Siren's subordinate, and also a member of the Kosha mercenaries. Her code name was Fox. Fox was Tanuki, who delivered the Ferrari sports car to Longmen City for Yun Jian back then. Fox looked like a young girl, but she looked exactly the same as Tanuki. They both had the same baby face. She was actually 25 years old. As for the Fox, he was working under the demonic woman. Fox had just caught sight of Siren when she shouted, drawing Mare and my niece's attention to her. Then she saw Yun Jian. She was stunned but called out to Yun Jian right in front of Mare and Mayanai. "Chairman, you're back?" The word chairman took Mare and Mayanai by surprise. Fox was Siren's subordinate, and also someone who had come into contact with the mysterious chairman of Rongyao Company. Chapter 10-11. You're the director of the legendary Rongyao Company? Mayanai widened her eyes at Yun Jian in disbelief when she heard Fox's words, her pupils constricting. Mayanai looked like a downtrodden beggar as she stared at Yun Jian in disbelief and asked. Mayanai did not even care about the excruciating pain from being hit by the teacup, as she asked Yun Jian with a terrified gaze. Fox, who was standing on the stairs not far away, glanced down at Mayanai in disdain before snorting and speaking to Mayanai on behalf of Yun Jian. "Sister Jian is the director of Rongyao Company, of course." Fox was different from Alluring Demon. Fox was an assassin from Kosha mercenaries and had only started working under Alluring Demon later on. Alluring Demon was the daughter of a bankrupt wealthy businessman whom Yun Jian had rescued back then. Alluring Demon was not an assassin or a secret agent, but she had mastered some basic self-defense skills. Yun Jian had saved Alluring Demon, because she had taken a liking to Alluring Demon's business talent. Alluring Demon knew that Yun Jian was slaying God. It was Yun Jian who had rescued Alluring Demon when her family was in dire straits, so Alluring Demon was loyal to Yun Jian. Moreover, Alluring Demon was in charge of Rongyao Company now, so her status in the international arena was extraordinary. Alluring Demon's skills could take down a bunch of ordinary people, but she was nothing compared to high-level assassins and secret agents. After all, Alluring Demon was only good at business. She was once the daughter of a wealthy businessman and had been pampered since she was young. As for self-defense skills, she had learned them later on. This was also the reason why Yun Jian had sent Fox to assist Alluring Demon. Fox was from kosher mercenaries, so his ability could take on at least 3 high-level secret agents. This allowed Fox to be ranked within the top 20 in the secret agent ranking. Since Fox came from kosher mercenaries, he knew Yun Jian's kosher mercenaries and Yun Jian's international status better than the witch. Therefore, Fox was not polite to Mai Yanai. Although Mai Yanai was the daughter of Hagi Company's chairman, if Hagi Company really wanted to fight with the kosher mercenaries, the kosher mercenaries could make Hagi Company disappear from this world forever. Fox's words shocked Mag and Mel even more. After that, Mai Yanai remembered the tone in which the fox had spoken to her. "Who the hell are you? You're just a dog following behind your master. How dare you speak to me in such a tone? Do you want to die?" Yun Jian was the chairman of Rongyao Company, so she shouldn't lose her dignity, so Mai Yanai was a little scared. She didn't dare to be mad at Yun Jian, so she turned to the fox. To Mai Yanai, since Yun Jian was the chairman, then she Fox was just a dog of Rongyao Company. How dare a subordinate be so arrogant to her? Mai Yanai stopped talking. Mel saw this and immediately scolded his sister. Mai Yanai pouted after being scolded by her brother. Just as she was about to continue speaking, she caught a glimpse of a fair and smooth hand reaching towards her. In the next second a slap was heard. Mai Yanai only felt that her cheek was hit hard, and she was sent flying to the ground. When Mai Yanai recovered from the pain, she just happened to see the owner of that jade hand standing in front of her. Chapter 10-12. Yun Jian walked closer to Mai Yanai as she spoke. Seeing his sister get slapped by Yun Jian, Mare was indifferent. That was because a demoness was blocking his way, preventing him from getting close. Yun Jian was already in front of Mai Yanai. She reached out and pinched Mai Ni's chin. Suddenly, she tightened her grip and spoke to Mai Yanai in a hair-raising tone. "Or, you can replace Hagi Company and become history. How about that?" The words "become history" were like a heavy hammer that slammed into Mai Ni's heart. Mai Ni's heart tightened. "You?" Mai Yanai felt an unprecedented fear. Reality proved that she was quite frightened by Yun Jian, especially when Yun Jian was pinching her chin and speaking to Mai Yanai with a slight hesitation. Mai Yanai felt that she had never been so scared in her life. However, just when Mai Yanai felt that her chin was about to be crushed by Yun Jian suddenly let go. "Take your sister and get out of here." Yun Jian kicked Mai Yanai. Then she turned her head. The young girl's beautiful face looked neither happy nor angry, but it made Mare's heart tremble. Mare had never seen a young girl like this. Yun Jian was the chairman of Rongyao Company. His Hagi Company's social status was higher than Yun Jian's Rongyao Company. If Yun Jian was an ordinary businesswoman, she would have probably rushed over to Hagi Company and asked for peace. But Yun Jian? What did she say? She said that she would make sure that Hagi Company would never see the light of tomorrow? Was this something that an underage girl would say? Alright, Mare admitted that Yun Jian was not an ordinary person. If Yun Jian was an ordinary person, then were there any geniuses in this world? Just as Mare thought of this, he was already holding his sister's hand. Mai Yanai had been spoiled since she was a child. Yun Jian's slap just now had completely stunned Mai Yanai. Mare had just helped his sister Mai Yanai to her feet, and was planning to leave this place first before coming back to find the demoness. Yun Jian's leisurely voice came from the back of his head again. "Tell Matt that if he doesn't want to disappear in the long river of history, he'd better behave himself. If he dares to lay his hands on my Rongyao Company again, he'd better wash his neck and wait for death." Matt was Mare and Mai Ni's father, and Matt was also the chairman of the Hagi Company. Mayor had indeed used his status as the president to suppress Rongyao Company because of the siren, but it was just a superficial suppression. Yun Jian might be in Longmen City, but in reality, the slightest movement among the international bigwigs could not escape her eyes. Yun Jian was also well aware that the person who was stirring up trouble in Rongyao Company was not Mayor, but his father Matt. Matt's motive was obvious as well. He wanted to take over Rongyao Company for himself. Mayor paused but left in a hurry with his sister Mai and I. Today was definitely the most pathetic day of Mayor and my niece's lives. Watching Mayor and Mai and I leave in a hurry, the few employees who were still working overtime in Rongyao Company were dumbfounded. Especially Yun Jian's arrogant words just now. Rongyao Company might be inferior to Hagi Company in terms of capital, but Yun Jian had asked Mayor to pass the message to Hagi Company's chairman, Matt, with such arrogant words. If he dared to do anything else, he'd better wash his neck and wait for death. Chapter 10:13. It was not my niece's first time wreaking havoc in Rongyao Company. The last few times Mayor and Mai and I came, Mayor simply wanted to see Alluring Demon. Mai and I, on the other hand, was here to pick a fight. Therefore, when no one picked a fight with her, Mai and I came to the employees and humiliated them. Even so, the employees dared not make a sound. She was the daughter of Hagi Company's chairman after all. Who would dare to go against her? Unless they were not afraid of losing their jobs. Therefore, the few staff members present were usually very unwilling to see Mai and I. At the same time, they were extremely disgusted with her. They just did not say it out loud. In spite of it, they nearly ran over to clap and cheer when they saw how Yun Jian thrashed Mai and I just now. In spite of it, Yun Jian's domineering image was deeply imprinted in their minds. If anyone mentioned Rongyao Company's chairman next time, they would introduce him to them proudly, telling them how cool and amazing their chairman was. While the employees were still admiring Yun Jian was already walking on the main road of Maryland with Alluring Demon and Fox. Haha, we finally got rid of that annoying Mayor, and gave that little B***tch Mai and I a good thrashing. Sister Jian, to thank you for your great feat just now, I'll treat both of you to supper. Alluring Demon patted Fox's shoulder and guffawed at Yun Jian. Let's go. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. Then, the three of them went to the busiest nightclub in Maryland in Country M. Alluring Demon ordered generously. When the dishes were served, Alluring Demon and Fox reported Rongyao Company's recent situation to Yun Jian. Yun Jian's eyes narrowed as she listened. It was 1 o'clock in the morning when they were done with supper. Gu Xian, Dan Tiansheng, and the others had finished watching the race and rushed over after receiving Yun Jian's call. During the 3-day Labor Day holiday, Gu Xian brought Yun Jian to Country M to watch the race. After spending a night in a hotel in Maryland, Yun Jian bought a plane ticket back to China the next day. Before she left, she also sent an invitation to Siren and Vixen, inviting them to attend the wedding of her mother, Qin Yiru, and Gu Junjian on May 21st. At the same time, Yun Jian also sent out a lot of invitations, using the name of kosher mercenaries to invite many international bigshots to Qin Yiru's wedding. Of course, for now, everything was being done in secret. Yun Jian returned to Longmen City alone. Gu Xian had already returned to school, so he sent Yun Jian to the airport and watched Yun Jian board the plane before leaving. Yun Jian got off the plane at a place called Yang City near Longmen City. It was already noon when she got off the plane and took a car back to Longmen City. Just as she reached home, Yun Jian saw a tall silhouette standing at the door. It had been a few days since she last saw Ce. When Yun Jian saw Ce, she ran over with a smile. Like a teenage girl, her heart skipped a beat as she threw herself into Ce's arms. Qin Yiru was not at home. She must have gone to chat with Mrs. Yang. Just as Ce pulled the girl into his arms and was about to speak with his magnetic voice, he was interrupted by one of the 3 heads that popped down the stairs. Wow, Ce, Gidge is snatching a girl in broad daylight. Shame on you. Chapter 10:14. Xiao Yunju shook his head as he spoke, as if he was reciting an ancient poem. Xiao Yunju had already started his first grade, so he had a budding understanding of some things. Of course, Xiao Yunju did not know where to use the phrase snatching a girl. It was only because he had learned these words in the past few days that Xiao Yunju was able to use them. Children were often the most innocent when they were not in school. But once they stayed in school for a long time, they would naturally understand some things. However, not long after Xiao Yunju spoke, the mischievous Duanli interrupted. No, that's not the right word. Duanli even cleared her throat as she spoke. She had completely turned into a little teacher, and then said very seriously, "It should be like this." Ahem. In broad daylight, under the clear sky, Big Brother Ce hugged Big Sister Yunjian, who had just returned home, and did something shameful. Xiao Yunju's words might not have caused such a big misunderstanding, but Duan Li's words made people's imaginations run wild. Originally, when Yunjian had jumped into his arms, Ce had, of course, hugged her symbolically. How could he not hug the woman he loved when she jumped into his arms? But sure, Duan Li's words. Did she mean that he was hugging Yunjian and doing something shameful? Xiao Yunju and Duan Li were completely misled by the new words that the school teacher had taught them. Yunjian and Ce stood at the door, but they could clearly hear the conversation between two of the three little heads that poked their heads downstairs. Yunjian's cheeks immediately turned red. Ce's face also darkened. Being caught by Xiao Yunju and the other two, Yunjian had a feeling that she would be teaching the children wrong things. Thus, just as she was about to squirm out of Ce's arms, she was pressed back down by Ce. "You three come down." Ce didn't turn around. He maintained his position of hugging Yunjian as he spoke to the three little heads poking out from upstairs. Towards Xiao Yunju and the other two, Ce had never spoken in an angry tone. Therefore, Xiao Yunju and the other two subconsciously believed that their big brother Ce had the best temper. He seemed to be having fun again. Children were very naughty. Xiao Yunju was also a boy. Of course, he was also naughty. Duan Li also had a lively personality. So when she heard Ce's slightly gloomy voice, Xiao Yunju and the other two started to hide, as if they were about to be caught by Ce. They kept shouting with all their might. "Wow! Big Brother Ce is going to snatch the kids. Big Brother Ce is going to catch us. We're rocks that don't move. Big Brother Ce can't see us." Xiao Yunju was having so much fun that he was sweating profusely. However, Yunjian, who was standing downstairs, felt a little awkward. However, nestling in Ce's arms made her feel at ease. It was as if she had really returned home and didn't have to worry about anything else. Yunjian's lips curled into a smile as she hugged Ce with her arms wrapped around him, pressing her body tightly against him. "Your mom went out. Adam and the others also went out. There's only the two of us at home and the three upstairs." When he mentioned the three upstairs, Ce recalled the scene just now and his face darkened. "Okay." Yunjian nodded. Then, she wanted to withdraw from Ce's arms. She said, "It's already noon. You guys haven't eaten yet, right? Let's take Xiao Yunju and the other two out for lunch." Yunjian wanted to squirm out of Ce's arms, but Ce pressed her back into his arms. "Adam's injuries have already recovered," Ce said again. Yunjian felt a little strange. Why was he so talkative today? In spite of it, Yunjian did not see the smirk on Ce's lips. The girl's front was pressed against him. A certain twin peaks were pressed tightly against his chest. He could even feel the girl's fullness through his thin clothes. "Big sister and big brother Ce will take the three of you out to play in the afternoon," Yunjian said with a smile as she rubbed Xiao Yunju and the other two's heads. At this moment, Yunjian's smile was the most sincere. At this moment, the smile on her face was from the bottom of her heart. "The amusement park. We're going to the amusement park that we went to last time," Xiao Yunju immediately said to Yunjian. At the same time, he had a look of anticipation on his face. Chapter 10:16. Receiving Xiao Yunju and the rest's expectant gazes, Yunjian pressed her lips together before she smiled and nodded. "Okay." Yunjian patted Xiao Yunju's head lightly and urged, "Hurry up and eat if you want to go to the amusement park. You won't get to play if you're late." Amusement parks usually closed at 8 or 9 in the evening. Longmen City's amusement park was especially new, so it had been operating later these few days. It would only start to chase customers away at about 10 in the evening. Yay! 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 Xiao Yunju yelled yay thrice in excitement, and swiftly dug into the rice in his bowl, stuffing it all into his stomach. Soon, Yun Jian and Ci took Duanli, Duanya, and Xiao Yunju's hands respectively and took the bus to Longmen City's new amusement park. In 1999, there were not as many amusement parks as there were now. Longmen City's amusement park was one of the earlier ones, so people from neighboring cities would come here for sightseeing. Hence, there were more tourists here. Yun Jian and Ce had already brought Xiao Yunju and the rest here before, so they went in quickly after buying tickets. It was May Day, a long holiday for the students. Parents usually brought their children out for sightseeing. Moreover, children preferred places like amusement parks where children could play. So today, the amusement park was full of tourists. Jia, we're going to play bumper cars. Xiao Yunju and the rest hugged each other excitedly as soon as they entered the amusement park. They even led the way to the bumper cars venue. The newly opened amusement park in Longmen City was more upscale, so they could play all the games inside as long as they bought a ticket at the entrance. However, they had to line up to enter the park in order to play the games. Xiao Yunju and the rest stood in line at the venue, holding Yun Jian and Ci's hands respectively. There were a lot of people lining up here, just like a long dragon. Some people were even getting impatient from waiting. Duanli stood on the spot, her little hand held by Yun Jian as she looked around. At this time, a group of young boys and girls about the same age as Yun Jian jumped over the railing. Because there were a lot of people in the queue, sometimes there would be people who cut the queue when the staff wasn't paying attention. Not only did she cut the queue, but when the young boys and girls jumped over the railing, one of the girls stepped on Duanli's little foot fiercely. Duanli was still young, and her feet were still tender. She was stepped on by one of the girls who jumped over the railing and cut in line. She immediately screamed, "Ah, it hurts." Yun Jian looked over and saw the girl who had climbed over the fence stepping on Duanli's foot. The girl even rolled her eyes at Duanli and muttered softly, "F***ck, annoying brat, get away from me." She then tried to catch up with the boys and girls who jumped over the railing and cut in line. Duanli's frail body contorted from the girl's stomp. She curled up on the ground, tears falling from her eyes from the pain. "Chestnut, what's wrong with you?" Xiao Yunju reacted the fastest, squeezing to Duanli to check where she was hurt. Seeing that the girl was about to leave, Yun Jian lowered her gaze. She suddenly grabbed the girl's wrist when she was about to move forward with the surrounding passengers. Chapter 10:17. Yun Jian saw Xiao Yunju slowly helping Duanli up from the ground, so she did not help Duanli right away. Instead, she caught the girl who stepped on Duanli and tried to escape. "Jia, it doesn't hurt." Duanli had been beaten since she was young, so when she saw Yun Jian tugging at the girl's shirt for her, she tugged at Yun Jian's clothes in fear. Duanli was afraid that Yun Jian would get into a conflict with someone else because of her. When Duanli was beaten up by her alcoholic father, there was once a neighbor auntie who came out to stop her. In the end, her father beat the kind neighbor auntie as well. Duanli was still young, but her experience was something that many people could not go through in their lifetime. Duanli was afraid that she would bring unnecessary trouble to Yun Jian because of her. She was afraid that Yun Jian would be harmed because of her. Due to her childhood, Duanli might look lively and playful on the outside, but deep down, she was afraid of the world. No one could understand the loneliness and fear that lurked in her heart. Yun Jian lowered her head slightly. She could see that Duanli's face was pale from being stepped on by the girl just now. A child's feet were soft and tender, unable to withstand even the slightest injury. What was more, when the girl flipped over the railing just now, she had jumped down from the railing that was about half a meter high. Stepping on Duanli's foot from a height was like standing up and stomping on Duanli's foot. Not to mention that Duanli was just a child. Even an adult would turn pale after being stomped on like that. When Duanli tugged at her clothes and said, "It doesn't hurt," Yun Jian felt something tugging at her heart. "F***ck, are you crazy?" I didn't do anything to you. What right do you have to make me apologize for no reason? The girl with curly hair looked like a gangster. It was nothing to be a gangster. Yun Jian was definitely the gangster among the students in Longmen City. She was now the boss of Zhe Province's top mafia group. As a person, being in the underworld wasn't scary, but the scariest thing was that he didn't admit what he had done. Refusing to admit what he had done was probably something that many people had done before, so it wasn't unusual. But what was disgusting was that not only did this girl not admit it, her aggressive tone made her sound more reasonable. Let go, let go, let go. If you don't let go, I'll call someone over to beat you up. Some people relied on the fact that they were gangsters and knew some ruffians in the society. Then, they felt that they knew some invincible people, and their tone was very arrogant. This girl was such a person. She glanced at Yun Jian contemptuously from the corner of her eyes, and struggled desperately to shake off Yun Jian's hand that was grabbing her wrist. The surrounding people had all seen the scene just now. Everyone present felt that Yun Jian was right. Little girl, we won't say anything about you cutting the queue just now, but it's a little unreasonable for you to not apologize after stepping on someone's sister, isn't it? There was a tall and plump young man with a beer belly, who stood at the front of the line. He saw what happened just now, and spoke to the girl on Yun Jian's behalf. Before the young man could finish, however, the girl cut him off. F***ck off, fatty. It's none of your business. As she spoke, she turned back to look at Yun Jian. Are you letting go or not? If you don't let go, I'll ask my friends to catch you and beat you up. Do you believe me? Chapter 10:18. The girl was stunned. Just as she was about to speak, she was attracted by the voices of a few young men and women who were squeezing their way to the front. Yang Kaidai, what are you doing? Why aren't you coming over? One of the boys, who was taller than the rest, bellowed when he saw the girl who was held back by Yun Jian. Obviously, this girl's name was Yang Kaidai. Yang Kaidai became even more frustrated after being yelled at by the boy. Her friends had already cut the queue and ran to the front, but she was being held back by Yun Jian and could not catch up with her friends. Moreover, one bumper car could seat two people. Yang Kaidai sat in the same car with her boyfriend. Her boyfriend was a real hooligan. She was so anxious to catch up with him, because she wanted to sit in the same bumper car as him. In the end, Yun Jian wanted her to apologize. Yang Kaidai thought that she was a person with a lot of self-respect, especially after she met her current boyfriend and made friends with many gangsters. She felt that she was very arrogant. Yang Kaidai felt that it was impossible for her to apologize to Yun Jian. Come over quickly. There's a B***TCH here who wants me to apologize. Damn it. I haven't done anything to her yet. Yang Kaidai was getting more and more frustrated as she was surrounded by people in the queue. She shouted at her friends who had already run to the front. Upon hearing Yang Katie's shout, her friends who had already cut the queue all ran back. Yun Jian was standing in front with Duan Li and Duanya, while Ce was standing behind her. Although Ce was tall, he deliberately bent his body and leaned slightly against Yun Jian. That was why Yang Kaidai did not see Ce. At this moment, Yang Katie's friends had already run back and jumped over the railing one by one. They surrounded Yun Jian and the people in the queue as if they were going to fight. F***ck. Little girl, you look pretty. Are you trying to bully my girlfriend? Standing outside the railing, a hooligan-like boy raised his head and pointed his chin at Yun Jian as he spoke arrogantly. This boy was obviously Yang Katie's hooligan boyfriend. However, as soon as the boy appeared, he stared at Yun Jian without blinking. That expression was very unusual. Seeing this, Ce stood behind Yun Jian and hugged her slender waist from behind. You're not going to apologize, are you? Yun Jian's tone was cold. She narrowed her eyes, but the atmosphere around her had changed. Looking at Yun Jian's cold expression, Yang Katie's boyfriend felt an itch in his heart. Yun Jian's current appearance was like a cold little beauty. At this moment, Yu Hui felt a certain part of his body swell up. He even felt that his girlfriend, Yang Kaidai, was tasteless. Hey little beauty, you seem to have quite a temper, Yu Hui said as he looked at Yun Jian with a sneaky smile. However, just as he finished speaking, Yun Jian reached out and pulled young Katie's body. Her other hand slapped young Katie's cheek fiercely. Slap! Yunjian slapped young Kaidai so hard that she leaned against the railing. Before young Kaidai could explode, Yunjian stretched out her leg and stepped on young Katie's foot. In the next second, young Kaidai screamed like a pig being slaughtered. For a moment, she did not even have time to scold Yunjian. Yunjian stepped on young Katie's foot with one foot. She stomped on young Katie's foot fiercely as she tossed and turned. Chapter 10:19. She paused for a while. Looks like you're enjoying it, Yunjian added. She increased her strength, and at the same time, her whole body was almost on top of young Katie's feet. Young Kaidai was an adult, so of course, she wouldn't be willing to be stepped on by Yunjian like this. She struggled with all her might, but Yunjian slapped her every time she struggled. This scene shocked everyone in the queue, and at the same time, Yu Hui and the rest were scared silly. No one expected Yunjian to be so ferocious. Most importantly, Yunjian looked thin and frail, but her current look was enough to make her look like a real woman. Not to mention whether Yang Kaidai could beat Yunjian. Yang Kaidai couldn't even reach out to touch the corner of Yunjian's clothes. Yunjian stepped on Yang Katie's feet, and the weight of her whole body was exerted on Yang Katie's feet. Yang Katie's face instantly turned red, and she was in a state where she couldn't bear the pain anymore. Yu Hui, hurry up and drag this damn woman out. Save me. Yang Kaidai couldn't beat Yunjian, so she waved her arms wildly, trying to grab Yunjian's hair and tear it apart by force. However, Yunjian didn't let her do as she wished. Whenever Yang Kaidai wanted to reach out, Yunjian would directly give her a fiery slap in this narrow space, causing Yang Katie's whole body to twitch. Yu Hui and his brothers were dumbfounded by what they saw. Don't girls usually like to pull hair when they fight? Why did it feel different when it came to Yunjian? When Yunjian hit Yang Kaidai, Ce protected Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Duanya behind her, and at the same time, didn't let Xiao Yunju and the rest see this scene. F***CK, little beauty, what are you doing? Hurry up and let go of my girlfriend's hand. Don't force me to hit you. Yu Hui saw that his girlfriend was being bullied by Yunjian, and he wanted to do something, but he considered that Yunjian was a girl. Most importantly, Yunjian was much prettier than his girlfriend. Yu Hui felt that he really liked Yunjian, and he felt that he wanted to dump his girlfriend and get to know Yunjian. However, if he didn't save his girlfriend, Yu Hui felt that he would leave a bad impression with Yunjian. If he didn't even save his girlfriend, Yu Hui subconsciously thought that he would leave a bad impression in the hearts of girls. Wanting to act like a man in front of Yunjian, Yu Hui went to Yunjian and extended his hand to stop Yunjian from stepping on his girlfriend's foot. Of course, Yu Hui wanted to touch Yunjian's soft and tender body when he pulled Yunjian away. Yunjian naturally felt Yu Hui's thoughts, and Ce, who was standing behind Yunjian, was naturally very sensitive to Yu Hui's actions as he was also a man. Just as Yu Hui was about to approach Yunjian, Ce, who was standing behind Yunjian, helped Xiao Yunju and the other two settle down. He didn't even bother holding onto the railing. He lifted his long leg and stepped on the railing with one foot, jumping over the railing from the long queue. That wasn't all. Ce lifted his leg quickly, and after he jumped over the railing, he put both his hands into his trouser pockets, and without even using his hands, he kicked Yu Hui, who was about to reach out to Yunjian. Yu Hui was sent flying by Ce's swift and fierce kick. With a loud bang, he fell to the ground, and Yu Hui felt that his internal organs were about to be shattered. Chapter 10:20. Yu Hui clutched his internal organs. He felt as if his internal organs were about to be crushed by Ce's kick. This feeling was worse than death. Cough, cough, cough. Yu Hui clutched his chest and coughed violently. Jumping over the railing meant that they weren't in the queue. Amusement parks would usually set up a long queue railing. Outside the railing, there was a flat area where there was no need to queue. Yu Hui and his group had jumped over the railing to run back to help Yang Kaidai just now. Ce had also jumped over the railing and kicked away Yu Hui, who wanted to touch Yunjian. Yin Jian's eyes dimmed slightly before her lips curled up. At this moment she felt warmth in her heart. Because he was behind her. Slap. Thinking of Duan Li's feet that hadn't recovered yet, Yun Jian gave Yang Kaidai another slap. Duan Li was only a child to begin with. She was still young and was still growing. Places like the back of her feet were tender and tender to begin with. Even Yun Jian's feet were soft and tender, let alone Duan Li. So when she thought of what Yang Kaidai did to Duan Li and refused to apologize, she gave Yang Kaidai a few more slaps without hesitation. In the end, Yun Jian grabbed Yang Katie's hair and pulled Yang Katie's head in front of her. She didn't let go of Yang Katie's foot. "Are you going to apologize or not?" Yun Jian said and gave Yang Kaidai another slap. In fact, Yun Jian was already very soft-hearted. According to her character in her previous life, Yang Kaidai would have already been killed. But now that they were in the amusement park, she didn't want to cause a big commotion. However, to an ordinary person, Yun Jian's action was quite shocking. If it was any other ordinary person, even if they saw their own people being stepped on by someone else, and were rejected when they asked for an apology, they wouldn't be able to do anything about it. Even if the other party was as confident as Yang Kaidai, they could only give up. What else could they do? He could only admit that he was unlucky. After all, Yun Jian had beaten, scolded, and even asked for an apology. If it were an ordinary person, who would dare to do that? Not only was this an action that could easily cause trouble, but more importantly, to hit a person in front of so many people, even an ordinary person would feel embarrassed. Especially for girls, they had to pay attention to their image. Who would be like Yin Jian? Who would be so unscrupulous? Not to mention whether ordinary people could have the same strength as Yun Jian. I apologize. Ah, please let me go. Ouch, 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 it hurts. Young Katie's hands were held by Yun Jian as she pulled her hair over mercilessly. She was in so much pain that she broke out in cold sweat. How arrogant she was just now was how weak she was now. Young Katie's entire body was trembling violently. At this moment, even the tourists standing around felt a trace of fear. How could such a young girl do things in such a cruel way? I didn't hear it. Just when everyone present thought that Yun Jian would let go after hearing the apology, they heard Yun Jian's cold voice again. The next moment, following Yun Jian's cold voice was a crisp slap. Yun Jian gave Yang Kaidai another slap. At the same time, she raised her voice, and her tone was even more arrogant that couldn't be ignored. "If you don't apologize to me, I will break your leg." Only then did Yang Kaidai know fear, and her whole body was trembling. At this moment, Yang Katie's heart was roaring. She is the devil. She is the devil. Chapter 10:21. She had clearly apologized. She had already apologized. But what did Yun Jian say? She said she didn't hear it? Could it be that because she said it too lightly, Yun Jian didn't mean it? Yang Kaidai couldn't help but curse in her heart. How could there be such an unreasonable person in this world? Wasn't Yun Jian lying to her? But Yang Kaidai forgot. While she was thinking about it, she seemed to have forgotten something. How did she treat Yun Jian just now? How unreasonable was she when she didn't admit what she did to Duan Li? I'm sorry. I was wrong. Please let me go. Let me go. Yang Kaidai begged desperately. For a girl like Yang Kaidai, she was arrogant because she had a boyfriend. Yu Hui was a gangster, and knew quite a lot of gangsters. He often fought with others, and even liked to call a group of friends who called themselves brothers. Whenever one of their buddies got into a little bit of trouble with someone else, this group of buddies would all come. Even if it was just a little bit of trouble, they would make it sound like a big deal. Then, a large group of people would band together to fight. Yu Hui often did this kind of thing. Of course, this wasn't considered a gang fight. If one really had to talk about it, wasn't a guy like Yu Hui just trying to find some sense of presence in front of girls? Gang fights, after gang fights, what was it for? To run in front of girls to show off. But what about girls? Some girls had never been exposed to such things. Then, when they heard a guy like Yu Hui exaggerating and saying that he was as powerful as Superman, they really thought that guys were omnipotent. However, girls like Yang Kaidai naturally fell in love with Yu Hui. She was even tricked by Yu Hui into thinking that Yu Hui and this group of people were omnipotent. But in the end, if she really met someone like Yun Jian, without the help of her boyfriend, Yu Hui, Yang Kaidai would probably beg Yun Jian to let her go. This time, Yang Kaidai really screamed and begged Yun Jian to let her go. She was afraid that Yun Jian would say, "I didn't hear you again." When Yang Kaidai realized that her boyfriend wasn't as powerful as he said, Yang Kaidai could only beg Yun Jian to let her go. Yun Jian only smiled coldly. Then, she swung her hand and let go of Yang Katie's hand. She didn't plan to continue to hit Yang Kaidai. After Yun Jian let go of her hands and legs, Yang Kaidai felt like she was reborn. She was so scared that she crawled along the railing like she was avoiding the plague. Yu Hui's legs kicks legs leg. As for the rest of them, they didn't dare to come up to Yun Jian and see. In the end, Yang Katie's group didn't even bother with the bumper cars anymore. They all ran away like a puff of smoke. Yay! Sister and Si Gij beat the bad guys. Xiao Yunju's cute little hands held onto Duan Li as he shouted. The surrounding crowd was shocked by Yun Jian and Si Yi's skills. After that, Yun Jian and Si Yi brought Xiao Yunju and the other two to line up as usual. Yun Jian also carefully checked Duan Li's leg. Seeing that there was a black patch, Yun Jian carried Duan Li. Although Duan Li's leg hurt, she didn't want to go home. Chapter 1022. Duan Li was carried by Yun Jian. Duan Li was very light, as if she had no flesh on her body. Therefore, Yun Jian didn't feel tired at all. Duan Li had 2 ponytails today and looked very cute. When Yun Jian carried her, the ponytails would gently touch Yun Jian's skin. However, Yun Jian didn't have any expression of disgust. Instead, she pursed her lips and smiled gently. Si Yi flipped over the railing and stood behind her. "Young lady, your boyfriend was so handsome just now." When Yang Kaidai stepped on Duan Li's foot and wanted to leave without apologizing, the surrounding people were all watching the show. Only this young man with a beer belly spoke up for Yun Jian. Now that he saw Yun Jian and Si Yi, this young man couldn't help but say to Yun Jian. This young man with a beer belly was a typical fat man, and his body looked rather burly. He didn't have any other intentions. He just wanted to say something to Yun Jian. Yun Jian also admired people like him, who were willing to help others when they met on the road. When the young man with the beer belly finished speaking, Yun Jian nodded and smiled at him, but didn't say anything. Yun Jian's smile was a tacit agreement to the young man with the beer belly. Si Yi was her boyfriend. The young man with the beer belly seemed to have no one to talk to, so he looked at Duan Li, who was in Yun Jian's arms, Duanya, and Xiao Yunju, who was being held by Si Yi. The young man with the beer belly couldn't help but ridicule them. "You guys look so young, especially you young lady. I think you look like a 16 or 17-year-old girl. Haha. If I didn't see these 3 kids, I would have thought that you two were a couple from school." The beer-bellied young man obviously didn't believe that Xiao Yunju and the other 2 were Yun Jian and Si Yi. Some people didn't look old. Although Yun Jian and Si Yi looked young, the beer-bellied youth felt that they were old. Usually, when a young couple went on a date or went on a trip, it was impossible for them to bring their younger siblings along, right? If she were to bring her younger siblings along, their parents would have to come along as well, right? Although he couldn't believe it, the beer-bellied young man would rather think in another direction than think in this direction. Yun Jian was stunned when she heard the beer-bellied young man's voice. She was about to say something when the young man interrupted her. However, Si Yi snatched the right to speak. "It's not good to keep the child cooped up at home. You should take some time to bring the child out for a walk." This meant that he had tacitly agreed with the beer-bellied youth's words. The corners of Yun Jian's mouth twitched. She wanted to explain again, but Si Yi hugged her slender waist and looked at her lovingly. He said, "Stop fooling around. Hold the child tight." Yun Jian was speechless. She could even feel the naked gazes of the people around her. "Ha ha ha. I can tell that you two have a good relationship." The beer-bellied youth believed Si Yi's words without a doubt. At the same time, he changed from calling Yun Jian and Si Yi a couple to calling them husband and wife. Xiao Yunju and Duan Li looked younger. Whether it was Xiao Yunju, Duanli or Duanya, they were thin and weak. They looked like kindergartners. In comparison, Xiao Yunju had grown taller and looked much better. However, he looked like he was 6 or 7 years old at most. If Yunjian and Ce looked older, then it wasn't too unbelievable that they had given birth to Xiao Yunju and the other two at an early age. The beer-bellied man smiled. Very good. Ce only revealed a charming smile. It was easy for Ce to say something that went against his conscience. Chapter 1023. In the end, Ce actually started chatting with the beer-bellied young man. However, from the beginning to the end, Ce was flaunting his relationship with Yun Jian. In Ce's own words, he couldn't wait for the whole world to know that Yun Jian already belonged to him and only him. He absolutely wouldn't allow anyone to have any designs on Yun Jian. The long line actually passed by very quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was Yun Jian's turn. Because he still had Duanya with him, Ce didn't plan to play bumper cars like the other kids. A bumper car could only seat 2 people, so Yun Jian and Duanya sat in the same car. Xiao Yunju and Duanli were already starting to understand things, so Yun Jian didn't have to worry about them sitting in the same car. Ce stood by the side and watched as Yun Jian, Xiao Yunju, and Duanli sat in the same car. They were having a lot of fun. Seeing Yun Jian pursing her lips and feeling happy from the bottom of her heart, Ce also felt happy. He stared at Yun Jian the whole time. Even the middle-aged aunties in the line could feel the love in his eyes. Xiao Yunju and the other 2 loved to play bumper cars. Some of the dangerous games in the amusement park weren't suitable for Xiao Yunju and the other 2, so Xiao Yunju and the other 2 dragged Yun Jian along and immersed themselves in the bumper cars game for the whole afternoon. After playing once, they dragged Yun Jian and Ce to line up for the second time. As a result, they didn't feel tired at all. When it was time for dinner, Yun Jian and Ce brought Xiao Yunju and the other 2 to a restaurant in the amusement park to order dinner. The dishes in the amusement park were generally more expensive than those outside. But even so, Yun Jian ordered a lot of dishes. During dinner, Yun Jian sent a text message to Qin Yiru, telling her that she, Ce, and Xiao Yunju would not be home for dinner tonight. Labor Day was a 3-day holiday. Today was supposed to be the last day of Labor Day, so there should be evening self-study at night. However, the weather forecast said that the weather would not be good on the last day of Labor Day, and it happened to be a holiday, so the evening self-study was cancelled. Of course, no one expected the weather to be so sunny today. In this era, it was common for the weather forecast to be wrong. Jie, let's go boating after eating, okay? Yunju asked Duanli and Duanya as he gobbled up the rice in his bowl. Okay. Yun Jian rubbed Xiao Yunju's head. She felt that her brother was getting cuter and cuter. After dinner, the sky had already darkened. Night quickly shrouded the sky, and the amusement park was soon illuminated by neon lights. There were still many people playing in the amusement park. Of course, the boats by the creek were still sailing. It was just that the boats here were charged. Yun Jian knew that as well. Ce had just paid for an hour's ride on the pedals. Yun Jian was just about to step onto the boat with Xiao Yunju and the other 2. However, at this moment, she unconsciously saw a familiar face not far away. The familiar person was graceful and elegant. She was holding a boy who was about the same age as Xiao Yunju. They were surrounded by a group of people as they walked over. When she saw the graceful and elegant woman, Yun Jian's eyes immediately locked. How did she meet Ge Xian's biological mother, Hua Yin, here? Just as she was thinking this, Hua Yin also saw Yun Jian. Chapter 1024. The moment Hua Yin saw Yun Jian, she was stunned. At this moment, Hua Yin was surrounded by more than 10 bodyguards. She looked like a typical rich person. Hua Yin was holding the hand of a boy who was about the same age as Xiao Yunju. It was not hard to tell that the boy was the child of Hua Yin and her current husband, Hu Chaochuan. Hua Yin's current husband was ugly. Therefore, even though Hua Yin was good-looking, the boy she was holding the hand of took after her current husband, Hu Chaochuan. He had a flat nose, a round face, and even his hair was a little bald. It had to be said that the boy was extremely ugly. However, he was dressed in branded clothes. It was obvious that he was a rich man's son. When Hua Yin saw Yun Jian and Ce with Xiao Yunju and the other two, she was stunned. Hua Yin remembered how Yun Jian had insulted her the last time. Last time, Yun Jian had called her a cheap woman. She had said that she and her current husband, Hu Chaochuan, were dogs and meows. Hua Yin had been waiting for the last time. When Qin Yiru and Ge Junjian got married, she wanted to go to the wedding and show off how sweet and beautiful her life was now, especially now that her identity was different from before. Her husband's uncle was an international business tycoon. Even in the entire world, his status was extraordinary. There was no need to mention it. This was because Hua Yin believed that a person like Yun Jian would never be able to reach that level. Of course, her husband, Hu Chaochuan, was an example. Hu Chaochuan had followed his uncle and had become an international tycoon. For example, her husband was one of the investors of the amusement park today. That was why Hua Yin was here. It could be said that Hua Yin's son was on vacation these few days. Therefore, Hua Yin had been wandering around the amusement park with her son. As she was wandering around, she bumped into Yun Jian. Hua Yin thought that Yun Jian wouldn't come to the amusement park just to mock her, right? Therefore, Hua Yin held her son, Hu Qixiang's hand, and walked over with big steps. After all, Hua Yin was from a wealthy family. After marrying Hu Chaochuan, she felt that her husband was very powerful. Therefore, she valued her cultivation even more. Hua Yin walked over and looked down at Yun Jian. She was wearing a pair of high heels, so she looked much taller than Yun Jian. I can't believe you guys are here. Hua Yin spoke as if Yun Jian and the others were not supposed to be here. If you can come, why can't I? Yun Jian was not the kind of person who would run away. She looked straight at Hua Yin. Hua Yin was slightly taller than Yun Jian. Now that she was wearing high heels, it could be said that Hua Yin was looking down at Yun Jian. However, Yun Jian stood on the same spot. She did not look up at Hua Yin. Instead, she looked straight at Hua Yin, who was a few meters away. In terms of aura, even though Hua Yin's height was slightly taller than Yun Jian, who was wearing flat shoes, Yun Jian was stronger than Hua Yin in terms of aura and behavior. It was also because of this that Hua Yin hated Yun Jian even more. Because this is my house. Mom doesn't like you guys coming here. I don't like you guys coming here either. So, get out of my house. When Hua Yin wanted to say something, her son with a flat nose, Hu Qixiang, who was holding her hand, took the right to speak. As soon as Hu Qixiang spoke, Yun Jian felt it. He was a typical example of being spoiled by Hua Yin and Hu Chaochuan. Chapter 1025. Hu Qixiang had been instilled with the idea that his father was very powerful since he was young. Before he came to the amusement park, Hu Qixiang already knew that his father was one of the investors here. He was only one of the investors, but in Hu Qixiang's mind, this amusement park belonged to his father. Everything here belonged to his family. He could decide who could come and who could not. Even the people who bought tickets to enter could scram out of here if they made him unhappy. That was the idea that Hua Yin instilled in Hu Qixiang. Hua Yin thought the same way too. Although Hu Chaochuan was only one of the investors here, Hua Yin felt that everything here belonged to her family. With such thoughts in mind, Hua Yin often wandered around here when she had nothing to do. She felt that she was superior to everyone else as long as she stood here. This feeling drove Hua Yin crazy. Give it to me. Yun Jian only smiled contemptuously. She did not want to fight for anything. Instead, she reached out her hand to Hua Yin. What? Hua Yin was shocked by Yun Jian's action. She felt that her son, Hu Qixiang, was especially cool when he told Yun Jian to get out of here because this was her family's territory. He was indeed her son. He knew how to help his mother deal with bad people. Refund the tickets. It's the tickets for the 5 of us. Didn't you want us to leave? We were kicked out before we finished playing. Of course, you have to give us a refund. Yun Jian did not care about other things. Instead, she reached out her hand and asked Hua Yin to give her a refund. Hua Yin was shocked by Yun Jian's action. Wasn't Yun Jian very domineering before? How come today? Why should I give you guys a refund? Huayan was infuriated by Yunjian's bluff. Huayan did not lack Yunjian's ticket money. In fact, the ticket money was nothing to Huayan. It was no different from the dust on the ground. However, if Huayan really refunded Yunjian's ticket money on the spot, wouldn't it be very embarrassing? Because we bought tickets, and we haven't had enough fun yet. If you want us to leave, of course we'll ask for a refund, Yunjian said smoothly. But since you can't give us a refund, we can only continue with the game. Yunjian continued without waiting for Huayan to speak. At this point, Yunjian called out to Xiao Yunju, Duanli and Duanya. Xiao Zhu, you three follow Ce Gij to the boat first. Ce didn't appear, but he was watching everything that was happening in front of him. He knew that there were some things that Yunjian could solve by herself. If she couldn't solve it cleanly, then he would come and clean it up. Ce quickly grabbed Xiao Yunju and the other two as if they were chickens and entered the pedal boat. He Qishiang, let's go. Huayan knew that she could not argue with Yunjian. She gritted her teeth in anger. But after considering her appearance, she dragged Hu Qishiang away. Just you wait. It was going to be Qin Yiru and Gu Yunjian's wedding soon. At that time, she, Huayan, would show Yunjian how rich she was. Compared to her, Gu Junjian and Qin Yiru's family wealth was nothing. Huayan wanted to show off at Gu Junjian and Qin Yiru's wedding. She also wanted her ex-husband to see that the husband she found now was not only richer than him, but more importantly, he also knew how to dote on her. Chapter 10:26. Just as they got on the boat, Yunju and Duanli snatched the pedals with their tiny feet and stepped on them, having a great time. Ce's long legs were pressed against Xiao Yunju's. Just as he carried Xiao Yunju and the other two onto the boat, Yunjian nimbly walked into the boat from the shore. Since Huayan had left on her own, Yunjian naturally did not ask her to stay, nor did she say anything. Because it was not the right time yet, she would let Huayan be smug for a few more days. Yunjian would never let anyone who belittled her mother off the hook. Reality had proven that Huayan had successfully angered her. As for the next step, she would make Huayan pay the price for angering her. Of course, Yunjian planned to give Huayan a heavy blow, while preparing a grand wedding for Qin Yiru. Just as Yunjian thought of this, she had already stepped on the pedals and walked into the boat. The boat was not big, and could only seat 4 people. They sat opposite each other in pairs. Xiao Yunju, Duanli and Duanli each took 3 seats. Xiao Yunju and Duanli sat opposite each other, while Duanya sat beside Ce. When Yunjian walked in, there were no more seats. Xiaoya, let me carry you. When Yunjian saw this, she planned to walk towards Duanya. She even reached out her hand as she spoke. When Yunjian walked in, she happened to pass by Ce. Just as she reached out her hand to carry Duanya to sit on her lap, Ce suddenly reached out and pulled Yunjian over. When Yunjian was scooped up by Ce like that, the force of his scooping was strong because she was standing in the corridor. It was as if he brought her over directly. Hence, when Yunjian was pulled over, she lost her balance and sat on Ce's lap. Yunjian was suddenly pulled onto Ce's lap. Her butt was suddenly pressed against Ce. At that moment, she could even feel a certain part of Ce's body expanding and pressing against her indescribable part. Yunjian's face flushed red, especially when Xiao Yunju and the other two were still having fun, and did not notice what was happening. It felt as if she was having an affair with Ce. Xiao Yunju and the other two were having fun stepping on the pedals, and did not notice the shocking scene of Yunjian sitting on Ce's lap. In front of the 3 children, Yunjian was blushing. She struggled but was held down by Ce. When Yunjian struggled, a certain part of the girl's body was pressed against a certain part of his, rubbing left and right. Ce nearly could not hold himself back. Xiaojian, don't move. Ce's fair and slender hand was placed on Yunjian's beautiful thighs. Yunjian was wearing a pair of shorts that ended just below her knees today. Due to the hot weather, her pants were thin. Ce's hand was on her thighs, and a certain part of his body was pressed against her. Yunjian felt like she had never encountered anything more exciting than today in her entire life. Especially when there were 3 little kids playing around them. When they got off the boat, Yunjian's legs were still trembling. She admitted that she did not struggle when they were on the boat just now, but she dared not exert all her weight on Siyi's thighs, especially when her lower body was pressed against him. It was almost 7 in the evening when they got off the boat. Yunjian planned to bring Xiao Yunju and the other two home. Just as they stepped out of the amusement park, Yunjian saw that Ce had sent a Mo-sun to pick them up. Once they were in the car, Yunjian saw Ce calling Snow Eagle. However, if he really encountered something difficult, he would simply treat Hua Yun as a punching bag. Hua Yun felt that the only thing she could brag about in this life was marrying a rich husband like Hu Chaochuan. Hua Yun wanted to pretend to be a very virtuous wife in front of Hu Chaochuan. So she went to Hu Chaochuan even after she was scolded. "Chaochuan, what's wrong with you? Is there something wrong with your business?" "It's alright, I'm here with you." Before Hua Yun could finish her sentence, Hu Chaochuan pushed her away. Hu Chaochuan, who had called Hua Yun baby in front of Yunjian before, did not even treat Hua Yun as a human when he was frustrated. Chapter 10:28. As Hu Chaochuan spoke, he glared at Hua Yun. His behavior was a stark contrast to Hu Chaochuan, who called Hua Yun baby in front of outsiders. Even so, Hua Yun was not mad at all, because Hu Chaochuan was her ATM. If she left Hu Chaochuan now, she was nothing. F***ck. Hu Chaochuan growled and slammed all the books on the desk onto the floor. With this slap, a few books hit Hua Yun's body. One of the books even hit Hua Yun's forehead hard, causing a big bump to form on the spot. Hua Yun clenched her teeth in pain, but she dared not utter a word in the end. The only thing she had left was Hu Chaochuan, because Hu Chaochuan's money was the only thing she could show off in front of outsiders. Therefore, Hua Yun could only endure Hu Chaochuan's violence at home and be an envied rich lady outside. This was Hua Yun's current living situation. The next day, Yunjian went to school as usual. Once the 3-day holiday of Labor Day was over, Yunjian's life returned to normal. The 3-day holiday of Labor Day could be considered Yunjian's last long break in junior high school. Once May was over, the senior high school entrance examination would begin in late June. What awaited everyone in the end was the yearning high school life. As for what kind of school they could get into, and which school they would go to, it all depended on the senior high school entrance examination in late June. "Jian, sob, I'm getting moldy at home. I can finally go back to school and stay with you every day. I'm so excited." Just as Yunjian returned to school, Chen Sini pounced on her. Yunjian did not avoid her, but allowed Chen Sini to hug her. Chen Sini was finally back to school after recuperating at home for so long. To be honest, Chen Sini was the person whom Yunjian and her friends were looking forward to the most in school. Initially, she thought that she would not be able to meet any other friends other than Lu Fian after leaving Xinjiang town, but she did not expect to meet Chen Sini. There was also Zhang Xiaofeng and the rest. "Let go, it's time for class." Although she was a little emotional, Yunjian pressed her lips together and told Chen Sini nonchalantly, "Hehe, I see. I know you're excited too, Jian." Chen Sini hugged Yunjian's hand coquettishly. It was only when the morning bell rang that Chen Sini let go of Yunjian's hand. There was a night self-study session on Tuesday. It was 8 o'clock in the evening. In addition, Yunjian and the girls were about to take their high school entrance exams, so the evening self-study session was usually dragged to class by the respective subject teachers. In the end, it would even drag on for more than 10 minutes. By the time school was over, most of the day and boarding students from the other grades had already left. Zhang Xiaofeng still had to go to the field for some exercise after the evening self-study session. So Yunjian and Chen Sini walked out of the school gate first. The night breeze was rather chilly. Chen Sini stayed by Yunjian's side, holding Yunjian's hand as they turned a corner to go home. Just as they turned the corner, Yunjian felt that something was off. "Ha, bros, it's this chick's boyfriend who kicked me hard at the amusement park yesterday." Yunjian recognized the leader of a group of people who were walking toward them at first glance. The leader was Yang Katie's boyfriend, Yu Hui. who refused to apologize for stepping on Duanli yesterday. Currently, Yu Hui was leading a group of more than 20 teenagers with Yang Kaidai in his arms. There were also some teenagers who came to watch the show, surrounding Yun Jian and Chen Sini. From the looks of it, it was obvious that Yu Hui and his men were here to cause trouble. Chapter 1029. Yu Hui was indeed here to cause trouble. After being kicked by Ce yesterday, he felt like his internal organs were about to be destroyed. To Yu Hui, he had never suffered such humiliation in his life. However, considering that Ce was too strong, he took his girlfriend, Yang Kaidai, and ran away first. If he couldn't win, he would run away. This was Yu Hui's habit. Of course, he buried yesterday's incident in his heart. After being kicked so ruthlessly, how could Yu Hui let it go? Luckily, Yu Hui asked his brothers to investigate, and finally found out that Yun Jian was studying at Longmin Yizhong High School. Yu Hui was amazed at how powerful his influence was. He was actually able to find Yun Jian's school in such a short period of time. At the same time, he didn't forget how Yun Jian dealt with Yang Kaidai yesterday. It seemed like this girl had some skills too. Hence, Yu Hui took advantage of the fact that Ce wasn't around today to bring his 20 brothers, and planned to intercept Yun Jian here. 20 people against one girl. He didn't believe that they would lose. Yu Hui's group of school hooligans, if they were bullied by anyone, even if it was just a little bit, they would make a big fuss out of it, as if they were going to die. Today, Yu Hui brought 20 people to surround Yun Jian and teach her a lesson. Yo, Yu Hui, I didn't expect these two girls to be so pretty. Ah, haha. The group of 20 hooligans surrounded Yun Jian and Chen Sini in a corner. One of them was dressed like a hooligan and had a yellow mohawk hairstyle. He sized up Yun Jian and Chen Sini from the corner of his eyes. He looked as if he wanted to see Yun Jian and Chen Sini naked. Brother Haitian, it was this damned woman who framed me yesterday. She even slapped my beautiful face until it was swollen. You have to take revenge for your younger sister. Yang Kaidai also stood up and covered her face as she spoke. Looking at Yang Katie's pitiful expression, it was as if she was really the victim. The brother Hai Tian that Yang Kaidai mentioned was the young man with the yellow mohawk. The young man's name was Wang Haitian, and he was the most powerful one among the 20 or so punks. Yang Kaidai also got to know this group of gangsters who she thought were very powerful, because she was dating Yu Hui. It was also because of this group of people that Yang Kaidai was so arrogant to the outside world. That was because she felt that she had a backer. Hehe, they actually dared to bully our little sister Kaidai. Of course I will help you teach them a lesson. Wang Haitian walked up to Yun Jian and Chen Sini like a ruffian, and sized them up with narrowed eyes. Not only were the 20 over brothers that Yu Hui had brought with him, there were also some people who came to watch the show after hearing that there was going to be a gang fight. The people around them were mostly students. However, when they saw Yun Jian being surrounded by Wang Haitian, Yu Hui and the rest, they all shook their heads and sighed. It seemed like the two girls who were surrounded were done for today. The students around them were not from Yun Jian's school, but from Wang Haitian and Yu Hui's school. Therefore, none of them knew that Yun Jian was Team Monarch/God. At that moment, Wang Haitian was looking at Yun Jian's voluptuous breasts with perverted eyes. So beautiful. There was actually such a beautiful girl in this world. Little girl, are you scared? Hehe, if you let me touch your breasts, I'll let you go. How about that? Wang Haitian put forward such shameless words. As he spoke, he even whistled, pretending to be very domineering. How do you want to die? Chapter 1030. The people standing around had thought that Yun Jian would beg for mercy, lose her face from fright, or hug Chen Sini in fright, and cry out what to do. This was how a normal girl would react when faced with such a situation. But what about Yun Jian? She didn't follow Wang Haitian's words. Instead, she asked Wang Haitian, "How do you want to die? Are you kidding me?" The current situation was that Yun Jian was surrounded by Yu Hui, Wang Haitian, and the rest, and they were about to gang up on her. She was a girl, but not only was she not afraid, she even looked at Wang Haitian and the rest and said such words. Wasn't this asking for death? It was fine if Yun Jian wasn't afraid. But why didn't the girl standing beside Yun Jian have any sense of fear? Chun Sini was standing beside Yun Jian. But just like Yun Jian, she didn't show any signs of fear in front of Wang Haitian and the rest. Hey, little girl, don't try to be brave. You won't die if I touch you. I'll touch you gently, and I'll let you go after that. How about that? Wang Haitian was mesmerized by Yun Jian's beauty, and he didn't even have the intention to avenge Yu Hui and Yang Kai-dai. At this moment, his entire heart was on Yun Jian. Such a beauty made him want to conquer her from the bottom of his heart. Wang Haitian, I was the one who found this beauty. Why are you the only one who can touch her? Yu Hui saw that Wang Haitian wanted to monopolize Yun Jian, and he panicked. He didn't even care about his own girlfriend, and opened his mouth to say these words. Yu Hui's words made Yang Katie's eyes widen. Yu Hui, you actually had this kind of idea. You even said that you're going to avenge me tonight. You. Don't, my baby. I'm torturing her, because I want to avenge you. Yu Hui realized that he had said something wrong, and he immediately changed his words. Although Yu Hui's explanation was rather far-fetched, Yang Kai-dai turned around unhappily and pouted her lips. After making an angry face, she didn't say anything else. It was only then that Yu Hui turned his attention back to Yun Jian. Just as Yu Hui turned his head around, he suddenly heard the surrounding students exclaim in surprise. Oh my God, this girl, she actually carries a knife with her. Yu Hui's attention was attracted by the noise. He turned around in surprise and saw Yun Jian pulling out a butterfly knife from her pocket. With a swift flick of her hand, the butterfly knife was caught in Yun Jian's palm. Seeing Yun Jian's proficient posture with the knife, everyone present was slightly stunned. In the next second, they heard Yun Jian's lips curl up. Her red lips moved up and down slightly, and the hand holding the butterfly knife tightened. Then, she pointed the blade of the butterfly knife at Wang Haitian and the others. Don't talk nonsense. You want to gang up on me, right? Get your weapons and come at me together. I don't have time to talk nonsense with you bunch of trash. The moment Yun Jian whipped out the butterfly knife was enough to send chills down people's spines. After all, she was a girl. How could she carry a knife with her? However, when Yun Jian finished speaking, the group of people led by Wang Haitian were dumbfounded. What did this girl say? She wanted all of them to come at her together? She even said that they were trash? Could it be that she wanted to fight with them all by herself? Was this a joke? Just her alone? Chapter 1031. Yun Jian strode forward. She lifted one of her legs and kicked Wang Haitian's abdomen, who was looking at her wretchedly. Wang Haitian's eyes were fixed on Yun Jian, and Yun Jian's movements were swift and violent. In the next moment, Yun Jian's leg had already kicked Wang Haitian's abdomen. Yun Jian had no intention of going easy on this kick. At the same time, Yun Jian waved the butterfly knife at Wang Haitian's chest twice. In the next moment, Wang Haitian was sent flying by Yun Jian's kick. The moment Wang Haitian was sent flying, everyone turned their attention to him. They saw Wang Haitian fly a few meters away after being kicked in the abdomen by Yun Jian. After Wang Haitian fell to the ground with a plop, everyone realized that Wang Haitian's clothes had been torn by Yun Jian. Yun Jian seemed to have put away the knife on purpose. The tip of the knife didn't hurt Wang Haitian's skin, but everyone saw Wang Haitian fall to the ground. The front of his clothes had been cut by the blade. Wang Haitian's clothes had been cut by the knife, forming a big X. Wang Haitian's clothes were cut into an X shape by the knife. This scene caused everyone present to panic and be stunned. But at the same time, when everyone thought of this, they didn't forget one thing. This X had been cut by Yun Jian with the knife in her hand. This could also be seen from the side. Yun Jian's knife skills were amazing. Just as everyone was thinking this, Yun Jian had already taken a big step forward. Her jade-like legs on the ground suddenly jumped, and she jumped into the air. Then, she lifted her legs and kicked the chests of the two brothers standing behind Wang Haitian. Wang Haitian had just been sent flying. Everyone was dumbfounded. How could they care about anything else? However, at this moment, Yun Jian lifted her leg and kicked the two brothers behind Wang Haitian. At the same time, She waved the butterfly knife, her hands and feet moving in a continuous stream. Following that, Yun Jian wandered among the 20-odd people Wang Haitian had brought with him. Wherever she went, a bunch of them collapsed. In less than half a minute, it was so fast that this group of people didn't even have time to react. The surrounding students who were watching the show saw Yun Jian ruthlessly kick the last one, Yu Hui. When Yu Hui was sent flying, Yun Jian's footsteps followed closely. She waited for Yu Hui to fall to the ground before she ruthlessly kicked Yu Hui's abdomen. Then, the butterfly knife in Yun Jian's hand landed on Yu Hui's neck. When they recovered from their shock and turned to look at where Yun Jian had passed by, they saw that each of the hooligans who were sprawled on the floor had an X slashed across their chests. This X was so neat that it was as if it was perfectly carved out by a knife. All of this, without a doubt, hinted at how precise Yun Jian's knife skills were. She was so precise that she didn't seem like a middle school girl at all. In just half a minute, she kicked more than 20 people to the ground at the same time and drew a big X on the front of each of their clothes. This wasn't something an ordinary junior high school girl could do. At this moment, Yun Jian was stepping on Yu Hui's abdomen. The pressure was so great that Yu Hui couldn't breathe. She tilted her head slightly and raised her beautiful eyebrows. Then, she moved the knife closer to Yu Hui's neck and sneered. "Are you trying to deliver yourself to me so that I can kill you?" Her words were cold, and her eyes carried a luster that no one dared to underestimate. At this moment, Wang Haitian, Yu Hui and the rest who were on the ground felt fear from the bottom of their hearts. Before they could even make a move, they were already subdued by Yun Jian. What kind of speed was this? Chapter 1032. Yun Jian's words shocked everyone present, especially Yu Hui, who was being stepped on by Yun Jian. Although Yu Hui usually liked to act cool in front of girls, when he was being threatened with a knife and stepped on, he was scared out of his wits. Yu Hui swallowed a mouthful of saliva before he spoke in a trembling voice. "Please take the knife away. All of this is not my fault, it's Yang Kai-dai. She was the one who threatened me. If you want to kill, then kill her. It has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with me." Yu Hui was really scared. At the same time, he suddenly hated his girlfriend, Yang Kai-dai, to the extreme for instigating all these things. If Yang Kai-dai didn't say that he would take revenge for her as a man, he wouldn't have brought his brothers here to look for Yun Jian, and he wouldn't have been held by Yun Jian with a knife. Yu Hui thought that with more than 20 of his brothers, how could they not be able to deal with Yun Jian? Unless she wasn't an ordinary person. She was an assassin in the movies, an agent. But he was wrong. He was ridiculously wrong. She actually managed to subdue all of them by herself. Yu Hui. You actually. As Yu Hui's girlfriend, Yang Katie's heart trembled when she heard such words from Yu Hui's mouth. At a critical moment, her boyfriend actually said, "It's not my fault. If you want to kill, then kill her." Yang Kai-dai couldn't breathe for a long time after hearing Yu Hui's heartless words. "Are you done?" Yun Jian raised her voice, raised her eyebrows and sneered. When Yun Jian shouted, Yu Hui was so scared that he immediately shut his mouth. Yun Jian smirked coldly and sneered at Yu Hui again. "No matter what, you brought so many people to surround me today. This is the truth. If I don't give you a gift in return, it would be rude." As Yun Jian spoke, she increased the force on her feet. Yu Hui, who was being stepped on by Yun Jian, almost spat out a mouthful of white foam. I beg you, let me go." Yu Hui's eyes were only left with a pleading look. Only then did he realize Yun Jian's cruelty. Just as Yun Jian moved slightly, and the butterfly knife in her hand was getting closer and closer to Yu Hui's neck, no one dared to stop her. "Over there. Damn it. The people from other schools want to gang up on our Yun Jian. Did they ask for our permission? Let's go, let's kill those people. How dare they bully Yun Jian?" A loud voice was heard, and not long after, Zhang Xiaofeng and Zhang Jian led a group of people and rushed over from the corner. This group of people was no doubt the students from Longmen First High School. When they heard that there was a gang fight, and the target was Yun Jian, Zhang Xiaofeng and Zhang Jian led a group of students who idolized Yun Jian to the core and rushed over like headless flies. "Master!" When Zhang Xiaofeng and the rest saw Yun Jian stepping on Yu Hui, and Wang Haitian and the rest who were kicked to the ground by Yun Jian getting up from the ground, he led a group of people and rushed towards Wang Haitian and the rest like a swarm of bees. Some of the boys from Longmen First High School, who came to help Yun Jian, had even picked up their backpacks and were ready to go home. When they heard that Team Monarch's slashing god was surrounded by a group of people, they threw their backpacks down and rushed over. How dare they touch their idol? They must have a death wish. Wang Haitian and the rest were dumbfounded. Were their eyes playing tricks on them? Yun Jian's popularity in Longmen First High School was so high. Why? Just as Wang Haitian thought of this, one of them lifted Wang Haitian's head and punched him in the head. How dare you gang up on Team Monarch's slashing god? Go to hell! The person said as he punched Wang Haitian. While being punched, Wang Haitian and the rest clearly heard a few words. Team Monarch's slashing god? Yun Jian. Chapter 1033. When Wang Haitian and the rest heard that Yun Jian was Team Monarch's slashing god, their eyeballs nearly fell out of their sockets. Team Monarch's slashing god. She was now a legend in Longmen City, and even the entire Zhe province. Many of the boys in the school had even made slashing god their goal and idol. It was no exaggeration to say that slashing god was an existence that could be heard, but not touched to Wang Haitian and the rest. When Wang Haitian, Yu Hui, and the rest of them nearly fainted from the shock when they heard that such a legendary figure was the same person who had taken down all 20 of them single-handedly just now. They were slashing god's fans too. The group that Zhang Xiaofeng and Zhang Jian had brought along were ready to go home after school, but once they heard that something had happened to Yun Jian, all of them dropped their bags and ran over. They were even more aggressive now as they rushed up and subdued Wang Haitian, Yu Hui, Yang Kai-dai, and the rest of the group. Yun Jian's foot that was stepping on Yu Hui loosened as well. She narrowed her eyes and did not need to do anything in the end. Zhang Xiaofeng was Yun Jian's junior brother, and this was a well-known fact in Longmen Junior High. Therefore, with Zhang Xiaofeng commanding, none of the boys who came to help Yun Jian were disgruntled. They rushed up one by one and pressed Wang Haitian, Yu Hui, and the rest to the ground with their advantage in numbers. Humph, master, they wanted to gang up on you. Today I, your son-in-law, will kill these idiots for you. As Zhang Xiaofeng spoke, he gestured at Longmen Junior High's classmates who came to help Yun Jian. Don't go soft. Give them a good beating. How dare they bully my master? They can forget about going back in peace. As Zhang Xiaofeng spoke, the boys from Longmen Junior High responded loudly. Wang Haitian, Yu Hui, and the rest who were initially aggressive were now the ones begging for mercy. Yun Jian raised a brow. Was she so popular in school now? The sight of Zhang Xiaofeng leading his classmates to help her made Yun Jian feel like she was being protected. The feeling made Yun Jian smile from the bottom of her heart. Wang Haitian, Yu Hui, Yang Kai-dai, and the rest who had offended Yun Jian, the slashing god of Team Monarch, scrambled away when they had the chance. How would they dare seek revenge? Yun Jian was the slashing god of Team Monarch. Watching them run away, the boys from Longmen Junior High School, who came to help Yun Jian beat up Wang Haitian, cheered and ran to Yun Jian to worship her. It was as if they were meeting their idols, and the extravagance was indescribable. Where is it? These little bastards actually dare to fight in front of me. At this time, a teacher on duty heard about the group fight here, and ran over with a student who complained in an aggressive manner. When Teacher Zhou, who was on duty, saw the crowd surrounding Yun Jian, and could not contain their excitement, he rushed up with a stick and hit the male students of Longmen Junior High School, who admired Yun Jian one by one, gritting his teeth in resentment. You little brats! How dare you gang up on a female classmate? Ha! As he said that, the teacher on duty angrily knocked on each of the boys' heads. The boys present felt extremely wronged. Teacher Zhou, who was almost 50 years old and had a strong sense of justice, was so angry that he could barely breathe. Chapter 1034. Teacher Zhou on duty was a very righteous little old man. He was not even 50 years old, but his hair was already white. In order to cover up his white hair, he even dyed his hair stylishly black. At this moment, he was holding a small wooden stick in his hand. This wooden stick was originally broken off from the tree. When he came here, he heard that a group of male students were fighting here. He was simply furious, so he broke off a branch from the tree and ran over here aggressively. Today was his shift, and they actually dared to fight in front of the school gate. This group of little bastards. None of them knew how powerful he was as a male tiger. That's right. This teacher on duty was the teaching director of Longmen First High School. His surname was Zhang, and Director Zhang was usually very fierce. He was a very fierce little old man. Moreover, he liked to go to extremes, so the students in school gave him a nickname, Male Tiger. It meant that once Director Zhang caught something, he would not let it go no matter what. He had to find out who was right and who was wrong. Just like the tiger, he would not let go of the prey that he had set his eyes on. Therefore, the nickname Male Tiger was formed just like that. Director Zhang also knew that his classmates had given him this nickname. Not only was he not angry, as long as his classmates did not make any mistakes, he would even joke about the nickname that his classmates gave him. It could be said that Director Zhang was a teacher who was strict and could take jokes. He was a teacher who could play and joke with his classmates. Although Director Zhang was quite scary when he was fierce, his classmates still liked him very much. There was one thing that was very admirable about Director Zhang, and that was that he felt that he should protect the vulnerable. In school, girls were also considered one of the vulnerable groups by Director Zhang. After all, it was a fact that girls' physical strength was not as good as boys. Hence, when he saw a large group of boys surrounding Yun Jian, Director Zhang concluded without thinking that this was the rhythm of a large group of boys wanting to bully a weak girl. Hence, Director Zhang was so angry that he casually broke a branch and rushed over to hit the boys one by one. The result? When he angrily hit all the boys, this girl actually said, "It's not their fault. I was the one who started the fight?" Really? She was the one who started the gang fight? Director Zhang was stunned on the spot. He looked at Yun Jian in a daze, holding the small wooden stick in his hand. He looked like he couldn't believe it. Getting into a gang fight would be punished by the school. Yun Jian knew that as well. What's more, Zhang Xiaofeng had brought this group of people because of him. Yun Jian, on the other hand, had always been protective of her shortcomings. If someone respected her, she would return the favor tenfold. This was her principle. Where is he? What if they didn't bully you? Then that group of people, what about them? Director Zhang was not someone who could be easily fooled. He looked around and said to Yun Jian, "Little girl, if you get bullied by these guys, just tell me. I guarantee that they won't dare to bully you again." Director Zhang thought that Yun Jian was afraid of telling the truth, because she was bullied by the boys around her. So he opened his mouth to speak. However, Director Zhang had just opened his mouth when Yun Jian interrupted him. "I chased them away." As she said that, Yun Jian's red lips curled up into a smile. At the same time, she gently swung the butterfly knife. This butterfly knife was smoothly closed by her, and then placed into her trouser pocket. "What? Chased away by you?" Director Zhang obviously did not believe Yun Jian, and was about to retort when Yun Jian interrupted him. Just as he was about to say something, the voice of the student who was watching the show, but didn't participate in it, came from the side. This student was obviously not from Longmen First High School. Chapter 1035. The words of the student who spoke reached Director Zhang's ears without any hindrance. Director Zhang's expression changed from disbelief to shock and horror. What did this student just say? This girl, Yun Jian, whom he thought was being bullied by the boys, defeated more than 20 boys all by herself? How could such a miraculous thing happen to a female student? Director Zhang was completely stunned. However, at that moment, after the student who was watching the show spoke, another student followed suit. Haha, how could that group of people be her match? Didn't they say she's Team Monarch's slashing god? She's the slashing god. Even if there were a few hundred of them, they still wouldn't be a match for her, let alone those 20 or so people from before. She's from the military. It was already shocking enough for Director Zhang, but after the student who followed suit, Director Zhang was even more terrified. What? The team monarch slashing god, who was the talk of the town recently, was actually the girl whom he thought was being bullied? Director Zhang was a genuine old urchin. He had heard of Team Monarch's slashing god before, but he did not know that she was in their school. Although the incident was spreading like wildfire in Longmen First High School, Director Zhang was unaware of it. Yin Jian curled her lips slightly. She was not afraid of being punished at all. She merely raised a brow and looked at Director Zhang. So, this incident has nothing to do with them. Yin Jian seized the opportunity to speak again. When Yin Jian said that, the boys present were very touched. Could it be that Yin Jian wanted to shoulder all the responsibility alone? Although Yin Jian was the cause of the incident, everyone did make a move in the end. If they were caught in a gang fight by the teachers, they would be severely punished. So can we disperse now? Yin Jian's red lips curled up slightly as she spoke to Director Zhang again. As she spoke, her eyes flashed with a different color when she looked at Director Zhang. In 1999, there were not many cases of girls fighting. Girls in this era were very reserved, especially when it came to fighting with boys. Even in the current era, such cases were rare. Director Zhang had been a director for so many years and had never encountered such an incident. The corners of Director Zhang's mouth twitched. Because of the shock just now and the fact that he was a little confused at the moment, he paused for a moment and then said in a daze, "Huh? Oh, all right. Let's disperse. At that moment, Yin Jian's eyes were sizing up Director Zhang. No one noticed that Yin Jian was looking at Director Zhang and even hypnotizing him. At that moment, hypnotism was the most effective. Looking at the dazed Director Zhang, everyone present was a little stunned. What? Based on Director Zhang's personality as the male tiger, shouldn't he fly into a rage and ask Yin Jian which class she was from? Shouldn't he be giving her marks at the registration counter? When Yin Jian heard that, she smirked and turned sideways. Just as she was about to wave Chen Xinyi, Zhang Xiaofeng, and Zhang Jian to leave with her, Director Zhang interrupted her. That classmate. Director Zhang spoke again. The students who were dumbfounded earlier had goosebumps all over again. What? Was Director Zhang going to settle scores with Yin Jian again? Classmate, be careful on your way home, okay? Unexpectedly, Director Zhang did not mention any punishment at all. The people standing around were all dumbfounded. Director Zhang had always been an impartial person. Why did he not punish Yin Jian today? He just let Yin Jian go. In the end, the students could not figure it out. Hence, they unanimously concluded that it was because Yin Jian was Team Monarch's slashing god. Chapter 1036. At this moment, Yin Jian had already left with Zhang Xiaofeng and the others. Everyone was left standing in their original positions. Yin Jian had just left with Zhang Xiaofeng, Chen Xinyi, and Zhang Jian. They were walking on the side of a busy road. Zhang Xiaofeng couldn't wait to ask Yin Jian excitedly, "Master, did you just use hypnotism?" Zhang Xiaofeng actually saw through it. Yin Jian narrowed her eyes, but she wasn't surprised. Back then, Yin Jian had used hypnotism in front of Zhang Xiaofeng, Chen Xinyi, and Ling Yichen. Later on, Lu Haozi even discovered it. At that time, Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Xinyi didn't ask her what was going on, but Yin Jian could feel that Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Xinyi were actually very interested in this matter. Yin Jian didn't intend to hide it from Zhang Xiaofeng. She tilted her head slightly and glanced at Zhang Xiaofeng, then nodded. She had indeed used hypnosis on Director Zhang, just now to make him muddle-headed and forget that he had been in a group fight with others. After all, what happened just now wasn't her fault. It was Wang Haitian and Yu Hui who brought people to find her. Yin Jian didn't want the school to make it seem like a big deal because of what happened just now. She didn't want to be criticized and punished in front of the entire school. She wasn't afraid of being punished, but she simply didn't want trouble. "Ha! Grandmaster, you actually know the legendary hypnotism." Although Zhang Jian was chubby and strong, he reacted quickly. When he spoke, the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. Zhang Jian didn't know that Yin Jian knew hypnotism. "You brat, My master knows a lot of things. You're making a big fuss. Embarrassing. Zhang Xiaofeng rebuked Zhang Jian, then chuckled. Zhang Xiaofeng didn't beg Yun Jian to teach him hypnotism, because he knew that Yun Jian would teach him everything she could. Of course, she knew what she couldn't teach or couldn't teach. It was because of Zhang Xiaofeng's personality that Yun Jian made an exception to accept him as her disciple. Finally, they parted ways at the intersection. Time passed in the blink of an eye. After May Day, Yun Jian returned to her normal life. The beginning of May passed, Qin Yiru and Gu Yunjian's wedding day. On May 21, 1999, Qin Yiru and Gu Yunjian's wedding. Although it was Qin Yiru and Gu Yunjian's second marriage, it was the first time they felt the excitement before their wedding. In the past, no matter if it was when Qin Yiru and Yun Gang were forced to marry, or when Gu Junjian was forced to marry Hua Yin, they didn't feel this way. At that time, they felt as if someone who had nothing to do with them had gotten married. However, a few days before the wedding, Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian were extremely nervous. Seeing that the wedding day was approaching, Gu Junjian had already booked a hotel. The wedding would be held at the hotel on May 18, 1999. There were 3 days before the wedding. Qin Yiru was staying at home. Every day felt like a year. On one hand, she was looking forward to her wedding with Gu Junjian, because she knew that Gu Junjian was sincere to her. On the other hand, she was a little scared. After a failed marriage, all women would have the same fear of marriage as Qin Yiru. Even if they hadn't experienced their second marriage, many women would have the same fear before marriage. They were afraid that the man would treat them badly. These days, Yun Jian asked for leave and stayed at home to accompany Qin Yiru. Chapter 1037. Xiao Jian, there are still 3 days before the wedding. My heart can't stop pounding. I wonder if the days ahead will be comfortable after marrying your Uncle Gu. Qin Yiru held Yun Jian's hand as her heart raced. Normal women generally had a slight premarital phobia, but some people didn't show it so obviously. Before the wedding, most people would have some concerns and more or less felt a sense of fear from the bottom of their hearts. In serious cases, they would even start to dread getting married. Qin Yiru had experienced a failed marriage, so it was normal for her to have such thoughts now. Mom, Uncle Gu is sincere to you. You don't have to worry about anything now. What you should do the most is to have a good sleep. I'll take care of everything else. Yun Jian patted Qin Yiru's palm comfortingly and pressed her lips into a faint smile. I've sent out all the invitations. Mom, rest well now and wait for the 21st of May to put on your beautiful wedding gown. Yun Jian had settled everything. Hearing Yun Jian's words, Qin Yiru's uneasiness calmed down instantly. Yiru, Officer Gu is a good man. Trust my judgment. Dong Ruan, who had heard Qin Yiru and Yun Jian's conversation, walked in from the door. Dong Ruan was a high-ranking official and was busy with work. Due to Qin Yiru's impending wedding, she had put aside everything she was busy with and applied for a week's leave, planning to accompany Qin Yiru through the wedding. When Qin Yiru had dropped out of high school, she could not do anything for Qin Yiru. Now that Qin Yiru had finally found her happiness, as a friend, she should stay by her side. It was not too late to make up for what she did not have the chance to do in the past. This time, she wanted her best friend, who had accompanied her since she was a teenager to her middle age, to get married in a grand manner. However, why was her Yiru getting married again? She was not marrying a bastard like Yun Gang either. She could not bear to part with her. Dong Ruan swallowed the jealousy in her heart and walked over to hug Qin Yiru. Yiru, if you dare to be unhappy, I promise I'll break Gu Yunjian's legs. After decades, Dong Ruan finally expressed her thoughts. Although her words were a little extreme, Qin Yiru knew that Dong Ruan would not really break Gu Yunjian's legs. She was just trying to make herself happy in another way. Even if the mountains collapsed and the earth cracked, there would always be such a person behind you, silently protecting you. She is not your relative, nor is she your biological parent, but she cares for you from the bottom of her heart. They had been good sisters for decades and had been friends for a lifetime. This was a friendship that could be brought to the grave. Looking at Dong Ruan and Qin Yiru, Yun Jian smiled as well. It was then that Yunjian's phone rang. A call at this time was simply ruining the atmosphere. Yunjian hung up the call and walked out of the house. On her way out, she closed the door behind her. Then, she took out her phone again and dialed the number. When she called back, Yunjian was already walking down the stairs in her flats. When she was halfway down the stairs, the call was picked up. "Sister Jian, it's Diani. We're in Longmen City. Where are you?" The voice of Diani, the leader of the Kosha mercenaries intelligence team, came from the other end of the phone. Chapter 1038. Yunjian had sent out quite a number of invitations in the name of Kosha mercenaries. With Gu Sha mercenaries' identity, how could these people not come when they had sent out invitations to influential figures in the world? Kosha mercenaries. Kosha mercenaries were in existence that could stand shoulder to shoulder with an Han group, sending out invitations in the name of Kosha mercenaries to influential figures in the world was not a question of whether they would come. Even if they were not invited, the influential figures in the world would rush to Longmen City at the speed of a rocket when they heard about it. If someone were to ask around, they would know that the large hotels and five-star hotels in Longmen City were fully booked. Generally, those who were qualified to stay in a five-star hotel were usually the rich and wealthy. The average citizen did not have the financial ability or the need to choose to stay in expensive five-star hotels. Therefore, five-star hotels would usually have leftover rooms. These days, however, these five-star hotels were not only fully booked, but there were also many foreigners. Yunjian was well aware of this. There were already people who rushed to Longmen City in case she was late for the invitations she sent out. It was the first time Diani and the others had come to Longmen City, so when Yunjian received the call, she went back to her room to change into a clean white shirt and slim-fit pants before she went out. CE was coming back from an Hun group the next day. CE planned to take a long break after she was done with her work in the organization. Yunjian had Diani and the others go to Longmen City's East Bus Terminal while she took the bus there. Diani and the others had rushed over from the headquarters of Kosha mercenaries by bus as well. When Yunjian saw Diani and the others, they were still standing at Longmen City's East Bus Terminal. There were only 3 of them on this trip. The one who stood at the front was a woman in her 20s with long black hair. She was beautiful and delicate. She was Diani. Diani was a ZY mixed blood. She had a head of beautiful black hair and a pair of gray eyes. She was very delicate and beautiful. The moment they saw Yunjian, Diani and the other 2 girls ran over. Standing at the front, Diani was the first to give Yunjian a big hug. "Sister Jian." Kosha mercenaries was divided into many departments, and 3 of them were the most important. These 3 departments were the intelligence team, the assassination team, and the investigation team. Diani was the head of the intelligence team. As for the woman and man beside Diani, they were the assassination team's leader, Gui Yan, and the investigation team leader Gui Lian. The leader of the assassination team, Gui Yan, was a woman, while the leader of the investigation team, Gui Lian, was a man. Diani, Gui Yan, and Gui Lian were the leaders of Kosha mercenaries' intelligence team, assassination team, and investigation team respectively. They were one of the important high-ranking members in the hierarchy of Kosha mercenaries. Back in Kosha mercenaries, Gui Yan and Gui Lian had met Yunjian as well, so both of them greeted Yunjian as Sister Jian. "Right, Sister Jian, Elder Snake. Lizard and the others will only arrive in Longmen City in 2 days." Diani told Yunjian, as she recalled Snake. Lizard's instruction. Yunjian pressed her lips together before curling her lips into a smile and said after a beat, "I know. Yunju's sister?" At this moment, a surprised voice was heard. Yunjian raised a brow when she heard the voice. Just as she turned around, she saw Miss Liu, who had just alighted from a city bus, and was greeting her. Miss Liu was Xiao Yunju's homeroom teacher in school, and the one who had slandered Xiao Yunju back then. Chapter 1039. Yunjian's stunning performance at Xiao Yunju's school had been witnessed by Miss Liu, as well as Xiao Yunju's classmates and parents. During the sports meet at Xiao Yunju's school, Yun Jian had killed an assassin on the spot, and the news had spread like wildfire. However, that was not the main point. The most shocking thing was Yun Jian's identity. She was an advanced special forces soldier in the military. She was Team Monarch/God. An ordinary person, especially an underage girl, had actually killed someone. Miss Liu should have stayed away from her when she found out. Miss Liu should have been scared to death when she saw Yun Jian, or she might even request the school to expel Xiao Yunju, because his sister was a murderer. However, that was not the case. With the identity of an advanced special forces soldier and Team Monarch/God, not only was Miss Liu not afraid of Yun Jian, she even thought that Yun Jian was the embodiment of justice. Therefore, Miss Liu walked over with a smile on her face. Sister Yunju, I didn't expect to see you here. Why? Are you here to take the bus from East Station too? Miss Liu walked over with a smile. Her face was full of smiles as she walked over. She could not hide the flattery written all over her face. Whether it was the first time she saw Yun Jian, or Xiao Yunju at the sports meet, Miss Liu had always treated Xiao Yunju and Yun Jian with disdain. The reason was simple. Miss Liu had always thought that Xiao Yunju came from a poor family. Therefore, Miss Liu had no patience for Xiao Yunju. However, it was different this time. After knowing that Yun Jian was an advanced special forces soldier, especially knowing that Yun Jian was Team Monarch/God, Miss Liu's attitude towards Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju changed instantly. Yun Jian was already an advanced special forces soldier at such a young age. From this, it could be deduced that Yun Jian's future was definitely not something an ordinary person could compare with. Therefore, when Teacher Liu saw Yun Jian, she called out to her in order to get close to her. Yun Jian did not have a good impression of Xiao Yunju's homeroom teacher, Teacher Liu. She only glanced at Teacher Liu from the corner of her eyes and replied coldly, "Yes, I'm here to pick up my friend." She didn't want to say anything else. "So you're here to pick up friends?" Teacher Liu glanced at Dai Annie, Gui Yan, and Gui Lian before nodding in satisfaction. Seeing that Yun Jian was about to leave, Teacher Liu immediately came up to her and stopped her. "By the way, Sister Yunju, Yunju has been doing well in school recently. If she keeps it up, it won't be a problem for her to be a good student this semester." Teacher Liu knew that parents all hoped that their children would be able to get the 3 Good Student Award. Hence, in order to get closer to Yun Jian, she used all her trump cards. Her words were filled with the intention of getting close to her. Teacher Liu was the classic, "I don't care if you're down and out, but if you're rich, let's be good friends" kind of person. However, what Teacher Liu did not know was that Yun Jian did not like flattery, nor did she like these fake things. It's all talk and no substance. I don't want my brother to get a fake piece of paper. Thank you. Yun Jian glanced at Teacher Liu. With that, she turned to call Dai Annie and the rest to leave. Yun Jian's words stunned Teacher Liu. Chapter 1040. Although Yun Jian was Xiao Yunju's sister, she could also be considered as half of Xiao Yunju's parent. The school had a database that registered the students' families. Back then, Teacher Liu saw that Xiao Yunju was adopted by Yun Jian's family, so she looked down on Xiao Yunju. Looking at Yun Jian, she was also dressed plainly. She didn't look like a rich person at all. Teacher Liu saw this, so she didn't pay much attention to Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju in the beginning. She even thought of Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju in her heart. If you don't have money, why are you pretending? What's there to be proud of? But when she found out about Yun Jian's identity, Teacher Liu's attitude completely changed. In order to curry favor with Yun Jian, Teacher Liu even wanted to give Xiao Yunju a certificate for the 3 Best Student Awards at the end of the semester in exchange. Unfortunately, Yun Jian didn't fall for this trick at all. And Yun Jian's words just now were also accusing her of being a hypocrite. Teacher Liu had met parents who rejected her good intentions before, but she had never met someone like Yun Jian. She actually said that she was hypocritical in a roundabout way when she rejected her. But when she saw that Yun Jian was about to leave with Diani and the other 2, Teacher Liu panicked and hurriedly shouted, "Sister Yunju, I heard from Yunju that he's going to take leave next Monday, right? Teacher Lu's shout attracted Yunjian's attention back. Yunjian narrowed her eyes and turned around. Then, she looked at Teacher Lu in the eye for the first time and said, "Yes." Seeing that Yunjian's attention was finally back, Teacher Lu put in more effort to say, "A student needs a parent's signature to apply for leave, but since we've met today, this can be waived." Today was Friday. In the morning, Xiao Yunju went to Teacher Lu to ask for a day off. As Qin Yura's wedding was next Monday, Xiao Yunju had to ask for a day off. It was almost noon. Teacher Lu didn't have any classes in the morning, so she left the school and took the city bus to the nearby market to buy some groceries. She planned to go back to school after she was done. He cooked lunch in the teacher's dormitory. However, he didn't expect to bump into Yunjian. Teacher Lu thought, "This is fate." It was another line of flattery. Yunjian chuckled coldly. "Thank you, teacher." Yunjian's face was calm. Her calm expression touched Teacher Lu's heart. "If there's nothing important, I'll leave first. I'm in a hurry." Yunjian randomly spouted some nonsense, and then turned around. Diane and the other two naturally followed behind Yunjian like 3 bodyguards. Teacher Lu was surprised when she saw this scene. However, when she saw that Yunjian was really about to leave, she hurriedly called out to her. "Sister Yunjian, is your mother getting married next Monday?" When a student asked for leave from a teacher, they had to give a reason. Otherwise, the teacher wouldn't agree. The teacher would even use a superior tone to curse the student for doing anything to play truant. Therefore, Xiao Yunju had developed a habit of asking for leave from Teacher Lu. After asking for leave, he would immediately give the reason, so that the teacher wouldn't mistakenly think that he was asking for leave to play truant. Yes, Yunjian didn't turn around this time. She turned sideways and looked at Teacher Lu from the corner of her eyes. "Oh, I see. Coincidentally, I don't have classes next week. Sister Yunju, do you mind if I attend the wedding together?" Teacher Lu asked shamelessly. Chapter 1041. To be honest, since Ms. Lu dared to say this, it meant that she was confident that Yunjian would agree. After all, Yunjian's younger brother, Xiao Yunju, was studying in her class. If Yunjian did not agree, it would not do. Disagree? Sure. If Yunjian dared to disagree, she would catch Xiao Yunju red-handed. Most of the teachers nowadays were like this. Of course, it did not exclude the truly good ones. There were not many left who could meet a truly good teacher, who was neither biased nor snobbish. If you could meet one, please cherish it. Teacher Lu's confident face made Diane, Gui Yan, and Gui Lian jump in shock. It was not that Ms. Lu's actions shocked Diane and the other two. Instead, from the moment Ms. Lu greeted Yunjian until now, Diane and the other two could clearly sense Yunjian's disgust toward Ms. Lu. That was one of the reasons. Of course, the most important reason was that Ms. Lu had clearly made Yunjian very unhappy. Yet she was still standing here unscathed. Based on Yunjian's personality, should she not have killed Ms. Lu by now? Suddenly, she felt 3 intense gazes sizing her up. Ms. Lu turned her head slightly and saw Diane and the other two sizing her up without any reservations. Ms. Lu was suspicious. She even reached out and touched her face. Then, she felt around for a while before asking Diane, "What's wrong? Is there something on my face?" Since Diane and the other two were following behind Yunjian, Ms. Lu guessed that Diane and the other two must be on good terms with Yunjian. To rope in a person, one had to rope in that person's friends first. That was the most important step. Ms. Lu had wanted to build a good relationship with Diane and the other two. But who knew that when she turned to look at Diane and the other two, and opened her mouth to say something like that, Diane crossed her arms and turned her head sideways toward Ms. Lu. It looked like she had no intention of paying attention to Ms. Lu at all. Seeing that, Ms. Lu swallowed hard. What if Diane was the one to answer? How should she answer? She couldn't possibly tell Teacher Lu that she wasn't looking at him because there was something on his face, but because it was a miracle that he hadn't been beheaded by Yunjian after talking so much nonsense. After all, Diane was considered half Chinese. She was sure that if she said that, Teacher Lu would definitely treat her as a lunatic. Cough cough. Ha. Miss Lu had already mastered the art of being shameless. Seeing that Diane and the others were ignoring her, she coughed a few times in an attempt to cover up the awkward atmosphere. After covering up the awkward atmosphere just now, Teacher Lu grabbed Yunjian and asked again, Sister Yunju, it shouldn't be a problem to have one more mouth, right? Ha. Ha ha. Teacher Lu said this to Yunjian in a joking tone. After she finished speaking, she even smiled symbolically. With this smile, the passers-by around the station glanced at her suspiciously. Initially, Teacher Lu wanted to talk to Yunjian in a joking manner, but she smiled. She thought that Yunjian would also laugh with her. This was an effective way of talking between adults. However, she did not expect that Yunjian had no intention of laughing with her, because she was a teacher at all. Diane and the other two looked at the scene before them coldly. In the end, Yunjian's slow voice was heard softly. Oh, since someone wanted to come up and be slapped in the face, of course, she would not refuse. Chapter 1042. Seeing that Yunjian had agreed to let her attend the wedding, Miss Lu assumed that Yunjian had agreed to befriend her. Looking at the silver watch on her wrist, Miss Lu knew that she had classes in the afternoon, since the hands were pointing to noon. Even if she wanted to get close to Yunjian, she dared not be late for class when it was time to return to school. It was a job that would affect her livelihood. Haha, Sister Yunju, you're such a good sister. Miss Lu chuckled, snapping out of her daze from looking down at her watch. Well, I have classes in the afternoon, so I have to go back and prepare for lunch. I'll be rushing to class in the afternoon. See you next Monday, Sister Yunju. Miss Lu was rather excited as she turned to leave. She had only taken 2 steps when she turned back to look at Yunjian. My son goes to kindergarten and ends school early. My husband doesn't have to go to work next Monday as well. They won't be able to make dinner if I'm not home. If there's space, can I bring my son and husband along? She was obviously begging for her son and husband to attend Qin Yiru and Gu Yunjian's wedding together. When Miss Lu heard that Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian were getting married this morning, she had asked Xiao Yunju where the wedding would be held. Xiao Yunju was actually an obedient child, so he gave her an address. Qingyan Hotel. Qingyan Hotel was a 4-star hotel recommended by Yun Yi. When Yunjian came to Longmen City from Xinjiang town for the first time, it was Su Haokol who insisted on treating her and brought Yunjian and Yun Yi to Qingyan Hotel. Yun Yi had recommended Qingyan Hotel because the food there was excellent. Compared to other 4-star and 5-star hotels, it was much more affordable. Good quality at a reasonable price was the concept of shopping nowadays. Yunjian's family could afford a 5-star hotel, of course, but Yun Yi had recommended Qingyan Hotel because the food there was delicious and to her taste buds. When Miss Lu heard from Xiao Yunju that Qin Yiru and Gu Yunjian's wedding would be held in a hotel, Qingyan Hotel, she was tempted. Qingyan Hotel was one of the few 4-star hotels in Longmen City. Although there were 5-star hotels in Longmen City, Qingyan Hotel's standard was relatively high. Qingyan Hotel's items might not be expensive among the 4-star and 5-star hotels, but it was still a hefty sum from a commoner's perspective. Why would they go to a hotel when they were getting married? Especially in this day and age. Who wouldn't get married in their own home and invite their neighbors to cook a table of dishes and pass the wedding just like that? For those with better family conditions, they would hire a professional chef to cook a feast. Who would have the money to go to a hotel? It was a 4-star hotel. Take Miss Lu for example. She had never stepped into a 4-star hotel in her entire life with her meager salary as a teacher. Therefore, when she found out that Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian were getting married at Qingyan Hotel, Miss Lu did not forget to let her husband and son join in the festivities by having a meal at a 4-star hotel. She was a teacher too. There was no way she would give Qin Yiru a red packet. This meal was a free meal. When Diane, who was standing at the side, heard this, she had the urge to kill Teacher Lu. Chapter 1043. Looking at Yunjian's smile, Miss Lu really thought that Yun Jian was welcoming of her bringing her family to the wedding. Attending a wedding was a joyous occasion after all. Moreover, Miss Lu thought that she could tell that Yun Jian had decided to accept her. Was she planning to befriend her? Miss Lu was even happier when she thought about it. She exchanged a bunch of pleasantries with Yun Jian before bidding farewell to Yun Jian. When Miss Lu left, Yun Jian did not see her asking for the location of Qin Yiru and Gu Yunjian's wedding. How was she going to attend the wedding if she did not know where it was? As smart as she was, how could Yun Jian not have guessed that Miss Lu would say something like that when they met today? It was probably because Miss Lu had gotten some information out of Xiao Yunju when he applied for leave from school. Yun Jian's impression of Miss Lu deepened when she said something like that to her student. Sister Jian, who is she? Why didn't you kill her? Gui Yen went up to Yun Jian to ask once Miss Lu left. When he said the word kill, Gui Yan's expression was as calm as the wind and clouds, as if he had just said something insignificant. A young man who was dressed fashionably walked past them, and was surprised to hear Gui Yen, a tall and pretty woman, who could be considered a modern goddess, speak to Yun Jian without blushing or skipping a beat. Why didn't you kill her? The fashionably dressed young man took another look at Yun Jian and Gui Yen before scurrying away in fright. Were these people idiots? Gui Yen was a woman with a very hot temper, a very vicious woman. It was not surprising since she was the leader of the Kosha mercenaries assassination team. There were 3 major teams in the Kosha mercenaries, namely the intelligence team, the assassination team, and the investigation team. Gui Yen was a woman, but she was in charge of all the members of the assassination team. Actually, among these 3 groups, only Ghost Flame's assassination group was the most difficult to manage. This was because the assassination group was in charge of all the secret agents and assassins of the Kosha mercenaries. Because of this, Gui Yan's identity determined her character. Furthermore, her strength was the strongest among the 3 of them, because I found something even more fun than killing people. Yun Jian stood sideways, the side of her face facing Gui Yan. Her slightly curved lips made the hearts of the 3 people present skip a beat. Oh, what could be more fun than killing people? Tell me, Sister Jian, let me try it too. Dai Annie's interest was piqued when she heard what Yun Jian said, so she asked quickly. Yun Jian turned her gaze back to Dai Annie. She paused for a moment before curling her lips and saying, "Guess." After saying that, she took the lead and walked forward. Diani and Ghostflame, who were still standing on the spot, were confused. For people like Diana and Gui Yen, who had always been at the top of the world, only by killing those who made them unhappy could they feel satisfied. Yun Jian used to think so too. Therefore, whether it was the old Yun Jian or the current Dai Annie and Gui Yen, they all thought that the best way to deal with someone they hated was to kill them in one blow. After her rebirth, however, Yun Jian realized that the real fun was not killing someone for a moment of satisfaction but, you two don't get it, do you? If someone pisses you off and you kill them, you'll feel satisfied for a moment, but how can you take the pain when they're dead? Ha ha ha. Chapter 1044. Watching Gui Lian catch up to her, the guy was graceful, like a gentleman. Gui Yen stood where she was, thinking about what Gui Lian had said just now before she mocked him. You're such an idiot. What are you talking about? Isn't that just showing off? You're being so secretive, and you're even giving me a jingle. Gui Yen first complained to Gui Lian. Just as he finished speaking, Gui Yan's mouth twitched as he suddenly thought of something. Is Sister Jian someone who needs to brag? Was the boss of the international Kosha mercenaries someone who needed to brag? No way. With Sister Jian's status, she was someone people would be begging to meet internationally. Why would she need to do something as vulgar as bragging? Before Gui Yen could dwell on it, Dai Annie hit the nail on the head. Haha, this is different. If you're just bragging, our Sister Jian doesn't need it. Sister Jian was showing off in front of an unreasonable person. But this was a different story. Bragging to unreasonable people means that the better you're doing, the angrier they'll be, right? So, what can we do by killing them? If we're happy, how can we not be happy when they're dead? We should learn from Sister Jian and piss them off. Dai Annie said jokingly, In fact, Diane and the girls would still kill those who deserved to be killed. After all, there were some people who would cause endless trouble if they were not killed. What they were saying now was a joke. As Diane and Gui Yin conversed, both of them caught up to Yun Jian. Yun Jian arranged accommodations for Diane and the other two girls as well. It was Qin Yuru and Gu Yunjian's wedding 3 days later. Time flew, and in the blink of an eye, it was the day before the wedding. It was the night of the 20th of May, 1999. CE had returned from an Han group a day earlier. On the eve of the wedding, Yun Jian had sent out invitations in the name of the kosher mercenaries. Those who were invited had already arrived in Longmen City. Recently, all the 4-star and 5-star hotels in Longmen City were fully booked. Gu Xian's biological mother, Hua Yin, was holding her husband, Hu Chaochuan's hand as they led their son, Hu Qixiang, to a 4-star hotel in Longmen City. "I'm sorry, our hotel is full." The receptionist smiled again and politely refused. "What's going on? This is already the 3rd-star rated hotel. Why are they all full?" Hua Yin held Hu Chaochuan's hand and questioned the receptionist like a rich lady. Hua Yin and Hu Chaochuan did not live in Longmen City. Hu Chaochuan had chosen to open an amusement park in Longmen City purely because it was more suitable for development. Of course, part of the reason was that he wanted to show off in front of Hua Yin's ex-husband, Gu Junjian. "Look, I casually invested in an amusement park, but what about you? You may be rich, but can you be richer than me?" However, it was a pity that this project ended before it even started. CE had already purchased the amusement park. It was now CE's, but Hua Yin and Hu Chaochuan were unaware of it. "I'm sorry, sir and madam. I don't know why there have been a lot of guests these days, so..." The receptionist smiled awkwardly. "There's not even a room? I say, what's your hotel for?" "You actually..." Hua Yin wanted to press further. Hu Chaochuan stopped Hua Yin's hand. "My baby, don't be mad. There's no star-rated hotel. Let's just stay in a normal hotel for a night." Hua Yin's face darkened when she heard that they were going to a low-class place like a normal hotel. In spite of it, Hu Chaochuan quickly made Hua Yin smile again. Chapter 1045. When the receptionist heard Hu Chaochuan's words, she was very surprised. However, the receptionist could only look at the two customers in front of her and smile. In the end, the receptionist watched Hua Yin and Hu Chaochuan leave while holding Hu Qixiang's hand. It was only when the three of them left that she heaved a sigh of relief. She then picked up the phone at the front desk and dialed the hotel's general manager. "General manager, all the rooms in our hotel tonight, including the deluxe suites, have been sold out. I heard from a woman who wanted to check in, but it's already full. She's already at the 3rd-star rated hotel." The receptionist reported what she had just learned to the general manager. On the other end of the phone, the general manager's voice continued. "Many important people have come to Longmen City recently. Take it easy and don't offend anyone." Yes, yes. The receptionist answered when she heard that many important people had come to Longmen City. She then probed the general manager carefully and curiously. Then, "General manager, do you know why there are so many important people in a small place like Longmen City?" The receptionist was purely curious. Curiosity killed the cat. There was a saying that made sense. How would I know about the important people's business? Do you think I'm a god? Just do your job. The general manager roared at the receptionist in annoyance. The roar frightened the receptionist so much that she put down the phone at once and told the general manager hastily, "I understand. Thank you, general manager." Just as she finished, she saw a young girl walking in from the hotel's entrance not long after Hua Yin and Hu Chaochuan left. The girl had a high ponytail, but it was not tied to the top of her head. Instead, it was tied at a suitable position, making her look spirited. The girl's flawless face was slowly approaching her. Even the receptionist, who was a woman, could not help being dumbstruck. "Hello, how may I help you?" The receptionist greeted Yun Jian politely. "I'm looking for someone," Yun Jian said with a smile. Yun Jian was already at the front desk when she finished speaking and rubbed her fingertips on the table. After a moment of silence, she finally asked, Where's room 3106? With the guidance of the receptionist, Yunjian quickly arrived at the east side of the third floor of the hotel. She was the sixth room from here. When Yunjian knocked on the door of room 3106, the door opened, and she immediately went in. The door was then closed and locked. Yunjian looked at the snake lizard in front of her and smiled. Sister Jian, everything's ready for tomorrow, snake. Lizard told Yunjian calmly, looking at her. What he got in return was a light nod from Yunjian. By the way, tell Raccoon to work harder tomorrow morning, and wake up early to do my mom's makeup. As Yunjian spoke, she walked to the big bed in Snake Lizard's room and sat down lazily. All right, Snake. Lizard nodded. Raccoon and Fox were twin sisters. Raccoon was the one who came to deliver the Ferrari sports car to Yunjian in the beginning. Every high-ranking member of the Kosha mercenaries had their own abilities, and each of them had the ability to take the world by storm. Raccoon was best at disguise. Transfiguration could also be referred to as makeup. But the difference was that it was based on makeup, turning a person into another person. Raccoon's disguise was already at the pinnacle of perfection, which meant that her makeup skills were even more unfathomable. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.